scanned and scoured your locality, your province, country, continent, and the world. Carefully curated those news developments that we believe will move the needle in your world today, and we've packaged them into this morning brief, which we now proudly present to you. Among some of what we will tell you over the next 3 hours. First, there was Amapanyaza, the Gauteng crime-fighting and traffic wardens. Now, get ready for the Gauteng Political Killings Task Team. Gauteng is set to establish its first ever political killings task team within 4 weeks amid a surge of assassinations targeting councillors, corruption whistleblowers, and taxi industry leaders. The Premier, Panyaza Lesufi, announcing the move following a meeting of the provincial executive, saying that the specialized unit will investigate cases dating as far back as 2010. The decision comes as the country is grappling with a wave of politically linked murders and also just this whole controversy around the work of the KwaZulu-Natal Political Killings Task Team. You'll know that the suspended police minister, Senzo Mchunu, had tried to shut down that KZN unit. In fact, gave an instruction and an order for it to be wound down, that order happening in December. But at the moment, it's unclear if there was follow through on that. We know about the controversies around the dockets that were moved around, and we are told now that the originals are in KZN and copies of those dockets will be made available for the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. So that's part of the backdrop and background of a similar unit as the one that Panyaza Lesufi is saying will be introduced in Gauteng. Lesufi insists that Gauteng's new task team will be properly resourced and insulated from political interference and will restore trust and justice in the province. So, the Premier, Panyaza Lesufi, will talk to me at the top of 7 a.m. about this political killings task team that will be established, how exactly the modalities, etc., and what they will focus on once established. So that conversation coming up at the top of 7 a.m. Port Elizabeth became Gqeberha, Queenstown is now Komani, and Uitenhage was renamed Kariega. Those are just some of the examples of how the country, and in particular the Eastern Cape, has been reshaping its symbolic landscape in recent years. As Heritage Month begins, we've got a view that has come through from the chairperson of the Eastern Cape Geographical Names Committee, Christian Martin, who has hit back at critics who say, and you hear this argument from time to time, that name changes, geographical name changes, come at the expense of basic service delivery. So you hear it all the time. Instead of focusing on changing names, why don't they build houses? Why don't they, build better roads, build schools and clinics and the likes? Well, Christian Martin is hitting back against that kind of criticism. Part of what he's saying is that this is a false choice, stressing that restoring dignity through names and renaming places, that restoration of dignity and provision of houses, roads, water, you name it, those two are not mutually exclusive. He says colonial era names are not mere labels, but tools of cultural erasure that still haunt communities today. And so according to him then, changing names is part of healing, reclaiming identity, and building an inclusive society without abandoning the urgent need for service delivery. So you'll hear more on those arguments being presented by Christian Martin when he talks to us at about 10 to 8 this morning. And it's a massive sporting weekend, massive sporting weekend. Two sporting codes that we will focus upon in the third hour of the show. Lesotho's football bosses. You remember yesterday someone mentioned the issue of Tebogo Mokoena in passing, and we sort of made light of it. Well, it's not as light as we may have made it out to be yesterday. Lesotho's football bosses are drawing a line in the sand. They are warning Bafana that they will lodge a protest the moment that the midfielder Tebogo Mokoena takes to the field for tonight's World Cup qualifier. LEFA is the Lesotho Football Association. The Secretary General of that association, Mogosi Mohapi, insists that Mokoena never really properly served the suspension for yellow card accumulation and says he'll act within 3 minutes. Within 3 minutes of Teboho Mokoena being on the field of play, there'll be a complaint coming through from Lesotho. So the clash is taking place in Bloemfontein. Nkululeko Nkewu will talk to us about that and give us some analysis just about the controversies of the field, but also how it's likely to play itself out on the field of play. So that's coming up at about 8:10. And immediately after that, we'll be talking to Thando Mqoli, SABC News senior sports journalist, who will give us a preview of that all-important and historic clash between New Zealand and South Africa, the Springboks versus the All Blacks, that's going down in Eden Park, where history is also at stake. What was that Zyke said? Since 1937, and she wasn't alluding to Orlando Pirates, but just talking about it's been 88 years since the Springboks were victorious out in Eden Park. So history also at stake. And Thando Mqoli will unpack it all for us at about 8:20. As far as the morning brief team is concerned, Chandugo Ligege stands at the ready with your hourly and half-hourly news updates. Rob Byrne has got your traffic updates. Zaikan has got your sport. Melissa Buta with the morning brief in brief coming up shortly. Dowling Lechela, as always, right on the money with your business and market updates. And Sipho Mantula coming up with your Africa update at about 7:20 this morning. Of course, you are an integral part of the conversation, so do call me 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. Let's get the Friday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
Catch SAFM live on Thursday, 18 September at the TBCSA Tourism Leadership Conference. Conversations shaping the future of tourism. Brought to you by the TBCSA, the leading voice of tourism in South Africa.
I am Baba Lobisha, the Executive Mayor of Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality. The Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality has recently adopted a 21.6 billion budget for the 2025-2026 financial year. This budget, shaped by extensive public participation, prioritizes critical needs such as electricity, sanitation, roads, and water infrastructure in the fight against crime. As part of implementation of this budget, strict measures have been introduced to fast-track spending, improve accountability, and ensure that every cent delivers real impact. This is more than just a budget. It's a commitment to community-driven service delivery that will not only improve our lives, but create enabling environment for investment that will grow economy and create jobs. Together, we make our municipality work.
This year, the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival presents 3 unforgettable days deep in the art and heart of jazz. From the 26th, 27th, and 28th of September, Umu Sankare, Ababemu, Jasmia Horn, Silent Law and the Noisemakers, Najbonk Trio, Michelle Ndingio-Jello, Willem Siini, Gabby Mutuba, and over 50 world-class acts will be ready to welcome you and yours to 4 magnificent stages of the Sandton Convention Center. Take me there. Buy your tickets at Ticketmaster now. Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
Yeah, because I'm a creature of habit, I mentioned Melissa Buta with the morning brief in brief, forgetting for a moment that she's taking a well-deserved break. So no Melissa Buta with that morning brief in brief. So let's go straight to your weather then for this morning. As far as the weather goes, no warnings from the weather service, but let me tell you the rest of your weather. Pretoria will be partly cloudy with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 30. Johannesburg, partly cloudy 14 to 30. Vereeniging, partly cloudy, 8 to 28. Mbombela, fine, 11 to 32. Polokwane will be fine with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 31. Mahikeng, fine, becoming partly cloudy, 11 to 31. Bloemfontein will be fine and windy, becoming partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 8 to 29. Kimberley will be fine and windy, becoming partly cloudy with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 31. Uppington, fine and windy, 16 to 33. Cape Town, partly cloudy, 14 to 20. George, partly cloudy with light rain by the late afternoon with a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 18. Gqeberha, partly cloudy with isolated light showers and rain at times by late afternoon with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 20. East London will be partly cloudy with isolated light showers by late afternoon, 13 to 22. Durban, fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon with isolated showers and thunder showers, 16 to 26. Richards Bay will be fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon with isolated evening showers and thunder showers, 16 to 33. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will be fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon with isolated showers and thunder showers, 10 to 30.
I'm Andile Ncube umzilanga disiqongo sino George Ntombi eyazi ngisala ke suka le emzimkhulu egugweni ila ke inkaba yasala khona. Your son got a star on his forehead, brightens your every mood when you get as old as I am. What do I like about Mzansi or love? You know, it's home. Beyond football, I enjoy cricket. You know, or Andile ngasixhosa ngo Ace Mabheka, you know. My favorite nickname of all time, like Captain Yama 2000. In everything we do, just like the African continent is the beginnings of life, right? Just like women are the beginnings of life. The SABC and SABC Sport is exactly that.
Catch Andile, Captain Yama 2000 Ncube on match days, live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
All right, let's bring you this story coming out of the state of Florida in the United States, but it has implications and perhaps echoes of public health care concerns in many parts of the world, especially the issues around vaccines. Florida is moving to scrap all vaccine mandates, becoming the first state in the United States to consider such a sweeping rollback. The plan, unveiled by Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo, would end requirements for children to be immunized against diseases like polio, measles, and chickenpox before attending public school. Ladapo defended the move as a matter of personal freedom, but health experts are warning that it could trigger dangerous outbreaks of preventable diseases. Teachers' unions, for example, and the Democratic lawmakers have also condemned the proposal, calling it reckless and a threat to student safety. Let's speak to Dr. Richard Lascelles, who is infectious diseases medical doctor at the KwaZulu-Natal Research, Innovation and Sequencing Platform. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. So there's a bit of controversy around this then in the United States. What are the potential short-term and long-term implications for a state like Florida if they go ahead and repeal all of these vaccine mandates?
Yeah, good morning to Latifa. Good morning to the listeners. I mean, I think that you've summed it up quite well. I mean, the first thing to say is, of course, and my understanding is that this has to go through several steps in the legislature before this would actually be implemented. So, of course, we hope that that something will happen that means this isn't actually implemented. But of course, the risk here is that childhood vaccination coverage slips in a part of the world where generally it's very high and where they don't see vaccine preventable diseases. And that then risks outbreaks of potentially fatal vaccine preventable diseases. And other parts of the United States have seen this in terms of measles outbreaks this year because vaccine coverage is slipping in certain areas. And so this is part of a kind of wider, as you highlight, a kind of wider public health messaging about vaccines and about people's choice around vaccines.
Is this an area that has been controversial at all, Doc? Vaccine mandates as far as they concern early inoculations for children for diseases like polio, measles, and the likes. I know that we had that controversy around vaccine mandates at the point at which we were dealing with the COVID-19 situation and, trying to get to a point where we could lift all the restrictions. But this area, has it been controversial at all, or is this a new controversy?
Well, if you look in the broad sense, of course, these things are not controversial. The vast majority of people agree to these things for the public good, because they understand that this is a public health measure that is designed to protect the community and the public, and it does take away somewhat the individual freedom and the individual choice. So in that sense, there's always been this tension that vaccine mandates do put kind of individual autonomy to one side, but the vast majority of people understand that there's a public health rationale for that, and that this is one of the most successful public health interventions in history, is childhood vaccination. And so it's really accelerating in the past few years, accelerated through COVID, this kind of this move to slash trust in and confidence in vaccines, and it's really worrying. And of course, in South Africa, we could just say, well, this is nothing to do with us, and why are we interested in what's happening in Florida? But of course, you highlighted this is part of a more global problem, and what happens there does impact because the messaging that this sends is spread around the world, and it potentially affects confidence in vaccines in other parts of the world, like here in South Africa.
Yeah. Talk to us a bit more about the evidence backing for the case for, vaccinations, including in this manner where you have vaccine mandates, for instance, at the schooling level, that, a child, part of their enrollment requirements would include an immunization card and follow through immunizations even in the early years at primary school. What's the evidence backing the case for vaccines at the levels of the WHO? I know that they cited some figures going as far back as 50 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the evidence really comes back to the principles around vaccination. That if you take, for example, measles, we know that we need exceptionally high levels of coverage of measles vaccination, above 95%, to give that herd immunity, so to prevent outbreaks from happening. And so that's really the kind of fundamental basis for vaccine mandates at schools is that high level of coverage that's needed. So to protect the whole school, you need to kind of have that requirement that everyone is vaccinated. Of course, mandates they do have exceptions. So of course, there are exceptions for medical reasons, sometimes exceptions for personal beliefs, religious beliefs. So it means that maybe not 100% are vaccinated, but it would be very close to that. And of course, across most of the United States, they do have extremely high levels of vaccine coverage. But that is slipping, and there are areas where that's dropped well below that 95% for measles, for example. And that's why they're seeing these measles outbreaks and have even seen measles deaths this year.
And in terms of, as a parting shot, the vaccine mandates, they remain firmly in place here in this country, right? As far as these diseases that I was mentioning are concerned. And what's the conversation being had here in the context of growing vaccine skepticism in parts of the world?
I mean, I think here we don't have it's not enshrined in law, the mandates, but of course at most schools, public and private, there will be a requirement to show childhood vaccination to gain entry. But my understanding is it's not actually a legal mandate, so that's the difference. Here, of course, we have many problems, and so coming back to the point, should we be worried about what's happening in the US or should we be worried about what's happening here? We should be worried about what's happening here because levels of coverage of childhood vaccines are dropping here over the last few years, and we're seeing continued measles outbreaks, continued diphtheria outbreaks, and so we have a lot of work to do here to improve the confidence in vaccines, to improve the delivery of childhood vaccination, and to prevent these preventable diseases in children.
All right. I've got to thank you for your time and your insights. That's Dr. Richard Lascelles, who is infectious diseases medical doctor at the KwaZulu-Natal Research Innovation and Sequencing Platform. It's known as CRISP out at UKZN.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Very good morning. Let's start with cricket, where the Proteas have wrapped up the ODI series against England with one game to spare, clinching a nail-biting 5-run win at Lord's. Matthew Breedska continuing his dream start to international cricket, hitting 85 to notch up his 5th successive 50. England fought hard with Joe Root and Jos Buttler making half centuries, but South Africa's attack, led by Nandri Burger and Lungi Ngidi, kept their cool to seal the victory. Let's go to rugby, where the coach of the Springboks, Rassie Erasmus, needs to keep his cool. The South African coach encapsulated the championship round 3 face-off against New Zealand at Eden Park, reiterating the fact that as a player, he's never won in New Zealand, and as a coach, he has 1 win and a draw. Here's Rassie Erasmus looking ahead to tomorrow.
It's the belief at the vital moments, and that's always been the last couple of years. I know there was that big 57-0 by them way back then, and then we had one big one at Twickenham. But I think it's belief and the right decisions and momentum-shifting moments which any team handle the best. So I can't pinpoint it to one or two things. I think in all areas of the game is going to be a hell of a competitive.
Let's go to soccer action. Ghana's World Cup qualifying campaign taking a dramatic turn when Jordan Ayew's early strike was cancelled out by a late Chad equaliser, leaving the Black Stars with a 1-1 draw, still top of Group I with 16 points. Ghana now face a high-stakes home encounter with Mali. Another match, Equatorial Guinea overturned a 2-goal deficit to edge Sao Tome and Principe 3-2 in one of the most dramatic turnarounds of the CAF World Cup 2026 qualifiers. Now, the win keeps Equatorial Guinea in the hunt behind Tunisia and Namibia, while Sao Tome remain rooted to the bottom. Elsewhere, Kaifamo's goal gave Wales a 1-0 win away in Kazakhstan in their World Cup qualifying match yesterday to hand Craig Bellamy's side a major boost in their attempt to make next year's tournament in North Africa. And finally, cycling. The Spanish Vuelta restarted without incident yesterday when Juan Ayuso earned a second stage victory a day after organisers cut a stage short when the protesters from Palestine interrupted the race in Bilbao. Two-time Tour de France champion Jonas Vingegaard kept his lead in the 3-week race. We'll be back on the podium, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning. In your headlines, former members of the South African Tourism Board have taken the Tourism Minister, Patricia de Lille, to the High Court. The taxi strike, which has left thousands of commuters stranded for 3 consecutive days in Durban, has been called off. And the Israeli military says it now controls 40% of Gaza City as it steps up a military offensive defying international calls to stop. I'll be back at 7 with a full news bulletin.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just on that taxi strike, with the taxi services resuming this morning, just a caution around that. The taxi volumes are not what they normally would be for a normal Friday, if you like. Maybe some operators just having yesterday off, deciding to extend it into today, perhaps, and getting a 4-day break out of it. So they are operating. The strike is off, as you've heard in the news, but just not at the same sort of level that you might be expecting. So 1 or 2 people might just get caught out by that. Gauteng, the N17, coming out of Brakpan on your way to Boksburg. The roadworks are still there, able to confirm. Just one lane open and some queuing pressure. N1 North return through Diepkloof down to Uncle Charlie's is pretty heavy. Truck crash around Harry Smith, just by the Harry Smith North exit on the N3 in the Free State. Watches some delays there. A truck crash coming up into Joburg around the Dustville interchange. Just come up from sort of Villiers to Heidelberg. Maybe some backlogging traffic around that one as well. Cape Town, lighter volumes across the board this morning, although the N1 inbound looking a little bit busy from Platterkloof down towards Sable Road, and the N7 queuing up passing Langer. In fact, delays start right back at Vangate Mall this morning. N7 queuing from the mall through towards Beaufort Circle on your way up to Epping. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
So for the first update of the morning, let's turn to Ndauling Lechela. Ndauling, let's start with the US and Japan and the trade deal. That's been formalized, has it?
That's right, Thulas. And this comes as President Donald Trump signed an executive order implementing lower tariffs on Japanese imports and other some of its other products. The order reduces the baseline tariffs on Japan to 15%. This move formalizes a deal between the US and Japan, a deal that had been reached in July, but there were still talks taking place, particularly around levies on Japan's vehicle industry. Now, this move, a welcome move for Japan, as it is an economy that is export heavy. Japanese automakers in particular welcomed the move, as the companies are now not subject to the sector tariffs. They're now working with that baseline 15% tariff when it comes to cars, instead of the 25% tariff that applies to the vehicle industry. Now, as part of the agreement, Japan has agreed to increase its purchases on U.S. agri-goods, including rice, corn, and soybeans, totaling $8 billion annually. This move also reaffirms Japan's commitment to invest about $550 billion in U.S. projects.
And in the tech space, tell me about OpenAI. They are reportedly in partnership to develop AI chips, so they want to enter that market as well.
That's right, Thulas, but not necessarily to sell those AI chips. It's more AI chips to power its own AI developments. Yeah, so according to the Financial Times, OpenAI is partnering with Broadcom to develop its first AI chip set to launch next year. And as mentioned, that chip will be used internally by OpenAI rather than being made available to external customers. This move is part of the group's efforts to reduce its reliance on NVIDIA and address the growing demand for computing power to train and operate AI models. Now, the US chip giant Broadcom expressed optimism about the company's AI revenue growth, citing over $10 billion in AI infrastructure orders from a new customer. Many analysts are reporting that new customer is likely to be OpenAI. Now, OpenAI's decision comes after it continues to explore ways to diversify its chip supply and reduce costs. Earlier this year, around February, reports emerged that OpenAI was finalizing the design for its first in-house chip, which would be fabricated at a TSMC plant. Now, with its growing demand for computing power, OpenAI's move into chip development marks a big step towards self-sufficiency, especially within this boom that we are seeing.
Yeah, it's an interesting development, and that's an understatement. Lastly, Ndauling, recap for us how we closed yesterday and the kind of tone that has been set this morning.
So starting in the US, markets closed in the green overnight, with investors shrugging off slowing hiring activity, saying a cooling jobs market will lead to the Fed cutting rates. Markets in the meantime here at home were in the red in yesterday's session, with the all share closing the day 1% lower. The resources 10 complex behind those losses, down 3.6%. This comes as commodity prices remain under pressure. The rand, in the meantime, still on the back foot as the dollar makes gains. It is sitting at 17.73 to the greenback this hour. Oil also in the red, down 0.2% at $66 per barrel this morning. And then lastly, in Asia, stocks are in positive territory following the formalization of the US-Japan trade deal.
Ndauling, thank you for that. We'll catch up with you in the second hour. That's Ndauling Lechela. She'll be back just after 7:30 with more insights for you.
Africa Update on SAFM.
For that, let's turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Good morning to you, Raz. Tell me about the Chinese President Xi Jinping and the Zimbabwean President announcing the upgrade of bilateral relations.
Refreshing morning, Thulas and Jumbo Africa to your listeners. Thulas, remember this week it was the 80th anniversary of the victory of the Chinese People's War of resistance against Japanese aggression. Now, meeting with Emerson Mnangagwa, again, as part of what they will call diplomatic engagement. It's almost 45 years between China and Zimbabwe. Now, Xi Jinping emphasized what he called a five-star ironclad friendship between the two countries that continues to deepen. And that's where this meeting of what we'll call the Global South, meeting with Asia, very important meeting with Dambuzo Mnangagwa to strengthen the relationship between Zimbabwe and China. And you'll recall even the old man, Uncle Bob, had this two intimate relation with the Chinese for many years to last, and that's where the crocodile, Dambuzo Mnangagwa, is continuing on that path.
Yeah, it stems back all the way from the times of the support for the liberation effort of Zimbabwe, but also in the 90s into the 2000s, that whole look east policy of the late former President Robert Mugabe. At the same time, though, Sipho, tell me about Russia calling the Republic of Congo, that's Congo Brazzaville, right? Calling them a friend and reliable partner.
Thulas, you will recall that the Minister of Defense of Russia went to Congo Brazzaville. That was last year, Thulas. Now, this was a meeting of mind between Vladimir Putin and the President of Congo Brazzaville, Denis Sassou Nguesso, still on the same parallel commemoration of the Chinese in Beijing, Thulas. So this was an important meeting that Putin emphasized their friendly relation with Congo Brazzaville. Hence, there was this meeting of minds also on the parallel of the meeting that happened in China, Beijing.
Yeah. And then let's talk about the tensions that arise from time to time around the countries that share the Nile River. It's one where, interestingly, Donald Trump has also waded in and sort of mentioned that he's got efforts on the go there to try and bring some kind of a truce and peace and stability around that. What have these two countries, Sudan and Ethiopia, been saying about that dam that Ethiopia is building on the Nile?
Thulas, this has been a long-standing issue, what you can call the battle of the waters, the battle of the Nile. Remember why this meeting that happened in Cairo between Egypt and Sudan, Thulas, it was trying to respond to the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who has reiterated that the Great Renaissance Dam, when it's going to be launched next week, Thulas, 4 days from now, on the 9th of September, they will open it up to engage with the downstream countries. And hence I said to you, it's got a history of international law, by the way. So Trump might need to go to study 101 in the international law to understand the gist of why this battle of the waters in the Nile, Thulas. And Abiy Ahmed still speaking to it, Thulas, that it is the mother of all when he talks about Ethiopia. Remember that Ethiopia has been having a challenge, Thulas, of what we call energy in terms of electricity. So they are using this Nile also as part of energy generation. It's also for their agriculture and for their climate change response. Hence, we have many trees in that part of the country, Thulas, and that's where Egypt and Sudan still reneging Thulas, claiming, which I will call a misinterpretation of international law, Thulas. I think in one of your shows, we must engage on what Boutros Ghali once said, Thulas, the battle of the 21st century will be around the water.
Yeah, I remember that. While you're talking about that then, conflicts and the likes, the second annual Peace and Security Dialogue has been underway in Gauteng.
Thulas, it is almost going on the wings of the wind. Tomorrow it will be the end of the day, but yesterday and today, just to give the listeners an update, Minister Lamola addressed it yesterday, Thulas, emphasizing on many key issues. But I want to go to the Alberto Joaquim Chissano, the former president of Mozambique, Thulas, sharing his moments as a mediator in many conflicts. We look at the DRC, look at the conflict that happened in Western Sahara. But Joaquim Chissano keeping two key words, Thulas, that why are we finding ourselves in this conflict? How are we dealing with the post-election violence in Africa, Thulas, raising the issues of electoral fraud and vote rigging, but and raising this model of national dialogue that Mozambique is going through, but saying that it should be an inclusive people's dialogue, corruption and poor governance, Thulas, raising it as the key issues. Minister Lamola Thulas yesterday raised an important issue. South Africa is seized with many matters, Thulas, is chairing the C5 on the South Sudan. Is also concerned about the Eastern DRC, is concerned about the North Sudan also. And one thing that he raised, I think, Thulas, that is important also, is to raise the issue of Africa also being in this trade war with the U.S. and how it threatens it. But I think we should not put our focus there, Thulas. Africa Continental Free Trade, the SADC Free Trade, I think that's where we must put our energies to trade amongst ourselves there, rather than to be embroiled with the U.S., a mismatch foreign policy.
Yeah. And lastly, Sipho, in your historical archive, you are turning the page to the 5th of September 2006. What happened?
Thulas, it was in Cape Town when the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, visited South Africa for the first time. 19 years ago, he met with the former president, Thabo Mbeki, and they were engaging on the bilaterals, both economically and politically. And you'll recall, Thulas, in the same wave, what you said, the liberation movement, affection that Moscow supported the African National Congress during those days of the liberation. And that's where this meeting was important for the Russian president to visit South Africa during those years. Asante sana, Thulas, SAFM still leading the conversation and observing the Heritage Month.
Sipho, thank you for that, and have yourself a fantastic weekend. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update for today.
Let me get this right, Ron. You're a plumber by day and Pretoria's smoothest wedding DJ by night.
Yeah, it started out as a passion and now I've got bookings until December. And a smoke machine that needs its own seatbelt.
And you sold your car to buy a van through We Buy Cars.
Brew, it was music to my ears. Zero admin, no long queues. They pulled in, checked it out, and before I knew it, I had cash in the bank.
Now that's a banger. We Buy Cars. Geared for your passion, geared for you.
We all know a Miss Sarah, that parent who randomly calls to check up on you.
Mjanam, when are you visiting?
She knows that every call or text goes towards her free funeral cover. She'll keep calling until she spent at least 120 Rand a month.
Mara, why haven't you accepted my friend request? Huh?
For every convo or scroll, you get 10,000 Rand free funeral cover. Recharge with 120 Rand every month to get covered. No paperwork, debit orders, or medicals. Recharge on the VodaPay app or dial *123#. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom.
September is Deaf Awareness Month, a time to celebrate the deaf community, promote inclusion, empowerment, and break communication barriers. Let's listen with our hearts and not our ears. Learn and embrace a South African sign language. Join us throughout September for commemoration events, activities that educate, connect, and inspire. Visit our website, foundationnima.org, for more information. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
Do you know what's hiding behind the colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front of package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org, by the 30th of September.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's get the conversation started. Let's hear what's on your mind this morning. I did say that it's a massive sporting weekend, and we'll be previewing that in the third hour of the show with Nkululeko Nkewu and Thando Mxoli, who will look at both Bafana Bafana as well as the Springboks. But someone else also pointing out that the Springboks women are in action in the Women's Rugby World Cup.
Good morning to Thulasizwe. It's James from Bern. I just wanted to remind you also that our women Springboks are playing in the quarterfinal on Sunday. So that's another game that we can look forward to.
Absolutely. And it's a massive one as well, all important one. Of course, they had a good game against Italy. And yeah, it was highly contested, but in the end the Springbok women triumphing there. So we do have the faith and confidence that Sunday will be no different as they continue their exploits at the Rugby World Cup, the Women's Rugby World Cup. Let me take this one. It has to do with the ANC. I wonder what that is about.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. When is the ANC or the government of South Africa going to own up for their failure? Because today we are a failed state. Companies are closing down. First it was General Motors and so on, and now this tire factory in the Eastern Cape. And yet the ANC doesn't want to own up. They're doing nothing because these companies are importing cheap things from especially from China. Even our food in the market. Now the companies in the food market, they take all this cheap imported food and just change the label and sell it to maximize their profit. It's very wrong, and we are getting sick as a country, Mono in Cape Town.
Yeah, thank you for that. I honestly don't know what more I could say to just add or perhaps respond to what you are saying. The levels of concern about job losses, we've been talking about that, but also the sense of we need to be hearing more from our leaders what the plan is. The job losses are happening, the factory closures are happening, and imports from other countries that undercut those companies that are producing in our economy. That's one of the factors. There are, of course, other factors that are mentioned in the equation. So it just feels like we kind of need a clear path. Just someone to just talk to us about, all right, you've seen what's happening at ArcelorMittal, you've seen what's happening at Goodyear, you've seen what's happening at Ford Motor South Africa. What is the plan? How are we going to bounce back? How are we going to try and restore those jobs that are being lost in those sectors and actually try and deal with the underlying factors that lead to those job losses? Bramoro in Mangaung, good morning. You want to talk to me about Bafana Bafana?
Yes, please. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I'm disappointed in the Mangaung leadership from the premier to the municipal management. Sports or soccer can be used to improve tourism in the country.
Mm-hmm.
But if you come to Bloemfontein today, ongoing is Makufe, which is Mangaung Culture Festival. That goes on every year. We are fortunate to have Bafana hosting 2 games in the city. Tonight against Lesotho and next week against Nigeria.
Yes.
But unfortunately, on the street of Bloemfontein, you don't see anything that shows even our national team is in the city.
Yeah.
No advertisement of the game. Even you can go to the social media pages of the Free State provincial government. They hardly even advertise sports activities on their own page.
Yeah.
So it's like they don't care about the development of sports in the city. Whereas during the era of Ace Magashule, I can clap my hands for Ace when it comes to sports or development of Free State. You can, at that point, those years, social media were not frequently as it is today. But you can see physically on the street of Bloemfontein flyers, posters, Bafana flags, jerseys, even to the extent that the municipality were even giving free tickets to people.
Gotcha.
We don't see all these things today. These are part of the things that can help to revive tourism in the Free State.
Absolutely.
Especially that most often we are hosting tourism in Durban, in Durban, whereas we can spread it across the country. But if we have the current leadership in the province, it will be difficult for the national government to introduce such programs in the country. We can tap into the knowledge of what Ghana is currently doing. If you look at Ghana, they have many Ghanaians who are playing outside the country. Once in a while, they organize games, bringing all Ghanaians in the diaspora to come home. Even the gate proceed alone is enough to revive tourism in the country.
Bramoro,
thank you, Zay.
let's leave it there. Thank you for that. That's Bramoro out in Mangaung. Interesting take there. Sport tourism, event hosting tourism is one of the key areas of growth if any region in the country is looking for growth. And Bramoro making the point that there's not enough hype being created by the leadership in Mangaung around some of the sporting activities that are being hosted. Quite an interesting one.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's generally an easier Friday morning, lighter volumes this morning on the M1 between Pretoria and Midrand, but there is a backlog just around Buerta Avenue down to John Foster. If you're coming down the M1 from Pretoria into that Buerta Avenue area, that is quite slow. The N17 under pressure, Brakpan through Boksburg, those roadworks are still there, and the N1 North heavy this morning from Eldos through Diepkloof down towards Uncle Charlie's interchange. Durban taxis are back, perhaps not in the same sort of volumes that you might find for a Friday after yesterday's stoppage, which was cancelled last night. It was all called off, so taxis are operating, but just to say, not the same sort of number that you'd normally get. Maybe a little bit disruptive around that. The N2 is pretty heavy for a Friday, backing up from the M7 through to Westwood Mall, pretty jammed up on that run through Spaghetti Junction. And Cape Town this morning, N2 inbound from Robert Sobukwe through to Hospital Bends, fully loaded, and the N7 North is just standing with pressure traffic from the N2 passing Langa on your way slowly towards Beaufort Circle in the Epping area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Lina Lakake Tlampokekana, I'm former Mamelodi Sundowns captain. I'm a sports analyst la ko SABC Sport. When I'm home, I try by all means to practice cooking. My favorite home cooked meal, I'll go for pap and masonja because I can prepare that with easy. What do I normally get up to when I get a moment to myself where I would easily, play my guitar? I try to practice a lot of Tracy Chapman. My favorite foreign language is French. Bonjour, comment ça va? So if I didn't play beautiful football, I think I was gonna be a baseball player. What do I like about SABC Sport is the fact that we given an opportunity to educate.
Catch the exciting Diski analysis by Sompo Long Range Kagana on match days live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Mzansi, don't miss out on playing Powerball and Powerball Plus for a life-changing 103 million rand in total guaranteed jackpots this Friday. That's right. Play Powerball for the guaranteed 50 million rand and Powerball Plus for the guaranteed 53 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
GovTech 2025 is back from the 8th to the 10th of September at the Durban ICC for 3 days of innovation, inspiring speakers and powerful collaborations, all shaping the future of digital government. From policy to AI, cybersecurity, data, cloud, and connectivity, GovTech is where transformation takes place. Innovation meets impact at the nation's flagship digital government conference. Register now at govtech.gov.za and be part of shaping the future.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
So a bit of controversy brewing out in Stellenbosch, where the mayor, Jeremy Fassar, has ordered a fresh investigation into explosive allegations of racially charged remarks made by the municipality's HR manager. The decision marks a shift from the municipality's earlier stance that the video, a video that has been circulating on social media that includes those remarks, was fake or taken out of context, with officials previously insisting that the matter had already been dealt with internally. So just to recap then, a leaked video allegedly shows Stellenbosch HR manager Alexander Kanemeyer suggesting making life difficult for white employees to encourage resignation, saying that allegedly that will be in pursuit of transformation within the municipality. The DA has also voiced its concerns, saying that if proven true, such comments would be completely unacceptable and contrary to constitutional values. Let's speak to Etienne Pio from Solidarity, a litigant at Solidarity. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning. So what's your take from what you've seen of the video, as well as what the municipality has said in response to the controversy that has arisen?
Well, first I must just say thank you for this opportunity. The leaking of the video first came as a sense of shock, because neither I myself or our members expected it at all, but also at the same time as a relief, in the sense that our members have been dealing with this internally and externally to an extent since 2023. So I'm still struggling to find the basis or the context that can warrant the statements that were made in the videos. I think that the normal grammatical meaning can take us a far way. And yes, up to date, Mr. Kanemeyer has not been brought to task to explain the context and how it can be seen as acceptable. So we are interested in watching the space and seeing how the municipality deals with this further.
What action are you demanding as far as Mr. Kanemeyer is concerned?
Well, we cannot preempt any outcome. So obviously we're asking for a fair process, but certainly we're also asking for immediate protection. And that is something that our members have been requesting since 2023, but nothing was done about it. Despite internal grievances, internal disciplinary complaints, formal protected disclosures that were made, there were no formal investigation, as far as we are concerned, to at least investigate this matter. So our request would be swift action, which may involve suspension, and then a proper investigation that will also give Mr. Kanemeyer a fair opportunity to represent himself and to respond to the allegation.
Just at a fundamental level, it appears that this was a meeting, and I saw the video, and you say it emanates from 2023. It appears that he was trying to make the point for transformation within the municipality, but then using words such as making life difficult so that people resign. How does that sit with you at a fundamental level, given both the need for transformation, but at the same time the difficulties that are raised by statements such as the ones that are in the video in the context of our stringent labor laws?
Yes, so in terms of transformation, Solidarity reached an agreement under the auspices of the ILO and the CCMA with the government in 28 June 2023. And that was concluded, and labor regulations were supposed to be adjusted to that. Now, that included certain international standards for transformation. For example, nobody's services should be terminated purely based on affirmative action. For example, that transformation or affirmative action should not be the only criteria for appointment. And then also issues like that race should definitely not be an absolute barrier for anybody's appointment. Now, in as much as we will concede that there were discussions about transformation, this goes too far. To have a discussion about transformation in recruitment selection processes doesn't give you a free-for-all ticket to make yourself guilty or make allegations or statements that are grossly discriminatory.
All right.
I would ask myself, in the discussion of transformation, how would it be fair to say that whites can't engage with staff? How would it be fair to say that? How would it be fair to say that we have a problem that white males are always the best candidate? That type of sweeping statements, and then following that up with saying that we make life difficult for them, for we get what we want. They leave and we get what we want. I don't think that there can be any excuse, even in the realm of transformation, to justify that.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. Etienne Pio, Solidarity litigant. Let's go straight to Chanduko Ligege with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
Thank you, Thulasizwe. Your top stories at this hour. Former SA Tourism Board members take minister to court and Durban taxi strike called off. Good morning. With the news at 7 o'clock, I am Chanduko Ligege. Former members of the South African Tourism Board have taken the Tourism Minister Patricia de Lille to the High Court. De Lille dissolved the board citing irregularities and alleged financial mismanagement, among others. Minister de Lille has appointed 6 interim members to manage the South African tourism affairs until a new permanent board is in place. A former board member, Upapilani.
Parliamentary committee members expressed their dissatisfaction because we wanted the country to hear our side of the story, because they have been listening to the minister's side of the story. And after that meeting, we then took a decision that we must now take the minister to court, because it was quite clear in that parliamentary committee that there was no basis for the minister to dissolve the board other than protecting corruption and protecting the CEO of SA Tourism.
The trial of 6 men accused of the mass murder of 18 people at Ngobozana village in Lusikisiki last year will resume in the Mthatha High Court sitting in the Lusikisiki Magistrate Court in the Eastern Cape Province today. Accused number 1, who is representing himself, Mncedisi Ndamase, is expected to continue his cross-examination of accused turned state witness Lwando Abi. Abi accused Ndamase of being the mastermind behind the mass murder, including the murder of ANC politician based in KwaBaca, Mncedisi Gijana. Gijana was killed prior to the massacre last year, and the state has linked the firearms used to murder him to those used in Lusikisiki. Ndamase has refuted the claims. Kimberley's civic organizations have rejected a decision by the Sol Plaatje municipality not to suspend municipal manager Thapelo Matlala. The organizations are also demanding the Sol Plaatje municipality to be put under administration. Matlala has instead been given 7 days to respond to allegations of corruption against him. Tumelo Musikare is one of the organization's leaders.
The collective of community forums from different corners of the city are speaking with one voice. The business forums have supported the same notion. The whole city is saying we are tired of this one individual. We thought today that the councillors will say that as well, but they have explained to us, the speaker and the chief whip have explained to us that they are following processes to make sure that there's no comebacks. That we appreciate that there will be no comebacks, but there shouldn't be a surprise when the 7 days are done and we are told, no, we think that he's innocent.
Meanwhile, Speaker of the Sol Plaatje municipality, Martin White, says it is necessary to act within the confines of the law before action is taken against anyone who has broken the law.
A special team of investigators needs to be appointed by council to investigate the allegations. Now, what Coxstar advised us, Coxstar is saying that we need to look into the precautionary suspension 6, which is saying that before a senior manager may be suspended, we must give him an opportunity to explain to council why mustn't he be suspended. That is according to the law. So we are following that one.
The taxi strike, which has left thousands of commuters stranded for 3 consecutive days in Durban, has been called off. The announcement was made during a joint media briefing between KwaZulu-Natal transport authorities and the taxi industry in Durban last night. The strike action was started by the KwaDabeka and Clement Taxi Association earlier this week, and the taxi industry was accusing the eThekwini municipality of wrongfully impounding over 20 taxis. In news further afield, the Israeli military says it now controls 40% of Gaza City as it steps up a military offensive defying international calls to stop. The Gaza Civil Defense Agency says Israeli strikes killed at least 64 Palestinians yesterday. The Israelis have ordered Gaza City residents to leave. A UNICEF spokesperson, Tess Ingram, says essential services are now collapsing in what is Gaza's biggest urban center.
The unthinkable is not looming, it is already here. The collapse of essential services is leaving the youngest and most vulnerable in Gaza City fighting for survival. Only 44 of the 92 UNICEF-supported outpatient nutrition treatment centres in Gaza City are still functional, depleting thousands of malnourished children of more than half of the lifelines that they depend on to fight this famine.
A recap on the top story at 7. Former members of the South African Tourism Board have taken the Tourism Minister Patricia de Lille to the High Court. For SAFM News, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
If you want to save on your car insurance premium, you call Outsurance, right? But what if you don't save? Well, they'll give you cash just for trying. You heard right. Just ask for 500 Rand cash. But wait, there's more. If you don't save and have been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years, you can ask them for 1,500 Rand cash. Savings or cash, you always get something out.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports headlines, we're celebrating cricket. Proteas sealing the ODI series against England with Baritza's brilliance at Lord's. And in rugby, the Springboks gearing up for the historic Eden Park showdown against the All Blacks. All the details just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Truck crashes with a traffic impact this morning. One out in Mpumalanga, the N4 eastbound, as you arrive into the central Middelburg area. So you've come through Middelburg Plaza, up through Van Dijkstrift and down towards the Samora Michelle Street exit into Middelburg. Big crash there. There are some traffic restrictions around that. That's on your way east going further into Mpumalanga, if you like. And quite a big truck crash blocking all lanes at Dustfield. So between Faliers and the Hook Plaza, if you're on your way up into Joburg, just the emergency lane to get you past that particular scene. Coming out of Pretoria this morning, not too bad, although there is a little bit of a backlog just from the R21 moving down towards Boerta Avenue. The N1 section through Midrand, lighter volumes, it's all moving quite nicely. Durban jam-packed today from the M7. This is the M2 going north, from the M7 Bluff exit all the way through Westwood Mall. M7 into Pinetown, really busy. Just traffic all the way from Hans Detman right up to St John's Avenue Bridge territory. In Cape Town, Veld to Vreden Road, leaving Mitchell's Plain up towards Philippi. That's packed out. And the N7 standing currently between Vangate Mall and Beaufort Circle. That run north on Jake Scoville through Lunga into Epping. Very slow. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Happy Friday to you. It's just gone 9 minutes after 7. Welcome to the second hour of the Friday edition of The Morning Brief. I want to go straight to this interview so that we dispense with it and then we can carry on with other conversations. The province of Gauteng is set to establish its first ever political killings task team within 4 weeks amid a surge of assassinations targeting councillors, corruption whistleblowers and taxi industry leaders. The province's Premier, Panyaza Lesufi, making the announcement following a meeting of the provincial executive. He says the specialized unit will investigate cases dating as far back as 2010. Of course, it comes amid all of the controversies surrounding the KwaZulu-Natal police political killings task team. You'll know that the suspended police minister, Senzo Mchunu, is accused of trying to shut down the KZN unit, a move that has drawn sharp criticism from some within law enforcement and also, of course, leading to some of the investigations that have been announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa. For his part, Panyaza Lesufi insists Gauteng's new task team will be properly resourced and insulated from political interference. So the Premier, Panyaza Lesufi, joins us now for that conversation. Premier, good morning and thank you for your time. What is the problem you're trying to solve for with a political killings task team in the province of Gauteng? Does it seek to address a problem that you've identified as being on the rise and perhaps getting out of control?
Good morning, Thulas, and happy Friday. Indeed, for example, in the last 6 months, we've lost almost 3 councillors in Johannesburg. The list is endless in Tshwane, and there's a municipal manager that was assassinated at the shopping mall 3 years ago. I think his family wants to know what happened. We've just observed the killing of the forensic investigator in Ekurhuleni. These things can't be just coincidental. We really believe that it's a syndicate, they're coordinated, and they're targeting officials and that are working in government, either as councillors. And we don't want it to then go into provincial and national leadership that are assassinated, that we need to then have a wake-up call. So it's within this context that we feel that all this case can be left as cold cases, that we can't trace the perpetrators or we can't trace who sanctioned the killing of these individuals. It was within that context that I had a session with the Minister of Police, and then on the basis of that, the National Commissioner made the announcement that we will also have our own police task team. And we were very clear, we needed to have clear timelines.
Yeah.
It needs to be resourced, and we also need to know terms of reference so that we don't have the challenges that we had with the one that was in KZN.
What appears to be a particularly pronounced element of the problem, Premier, in Gauteng is the killing of whistleblowers. The case of Babita Diokaran comes to mind immediately, as well as the forensic investigator forensic auditor in Ekurhuleni. Will the task team have that mandate as well, over and above councillors, municipal managers, people who are considered to be, political in terms of what they do? Will it also have the element of investigating the killings of whistleblowers and forensic investigators and the likes?
It goes beyond that. It includes protection of whistleblowers, because if people give us information, we need to protect them. So you're right. We wanted to include that, even though we're now tempted, because after we've made this announcement, the taxi industry came to us with a long list of taxi owners that have been assassinated, and they honestly feel that this needs proper investigation. So it will depend on the resources that we have at our disposal. I don't think it's an element that needs to be closed out. Hence, we want to finalize the terms of reference. I think within the next 4 weeks, we'll have an idea on how best this task team can execute its responsibilities.
But why go back all the way to 2010 then, Premier? Because I think I once heard the expression, I think it was Professor Thuli Madonsela, that says when you go out to investigate everything, you may end up investigating nothing.
Because they've been, where we are, we think that there's been an escalation of this incident since 2010, and it might be wrong. And I'm glad that a person of Thuli Madonsela have deposited ideas on this. But
it was in a different context, Premier. I must clarify that. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we felt that they escalated after 2010, and these are linked to major investments in infrastructure and other related areas. We believe that this investment were led to people to sponsor either officials of government or politicians or whistleblowers, as you said, to be targeted. But if other people feel that it's too way back in 2010, I don't think that we should be rigid. But our argument for now is to say, let's take it from 2010, because there are lots of cases that remain unresolved.
And then talk to me about the modalities for the establishment of this task team. You're saying that it will be in place within 4 weeks. How exactly? What is the level of resourcing? And when we say resourcing, how big a unit are we talking? And will they be ring-fenced as opposed to being police officers who undertake other work and then in addition to that have to undertake the work of this task team?
Well, that's operational matters that I'm reluctant to enter. The provincial commissioner assured us that within 4 weeks, they will give us a proper brief on its operations, its capacity, and how it needs to be deployed. So I think within the next 4 weeks, we'll have that broader clarity from those that are going to lead to this team.
And what guarantees do we have that it will not run into the same problems that the KZN political killings task team ran into, in that the more they carry out their work, the more controversies and political interference starts to be posited and alleged in the way that they are being managed?
What excites me is that it's in parallel with the commission. It's going to run parallel with Parliament that is dealing with this matter, which simply means that we are going to draw lessons from those institutions, and therefore it will serve as a guide. But we're very clear. Let's have terms of references that are acceptable to all of us, and let's have the resources that are needed clearly identified so that people must not be constrained because they don't have resources. And thirdly, it should be in a position to insulate itself from unnecessary influence or bias.
And lastly, Premier, the establishment and calling for a task team mode of working, is this an acknowledgement that there's been a failure in policing being an area of our government that has concurrent responsibility between the national and the provincial sphere of government, and in fact, in some instances, local government, that within the system and the policing resources that we have, there doesn't seem to be a way for this to happen as a matter of course? You have to resort to a task team mode of working for it to happen. Is that an acknowledgement of a failure?
Not necessarily. I don't think that those that crafted our constitution and our laws prior to 1994 had anticipated that we'll enter an era where people will be killed for being whistleblowers, or people will be killed for leading political offices. Our confinement obviously was made and over in a normal sense, but if it's coordinated, sponsored, and it's influenced by certain events or activities, you'll always need a special team that can assist you to deal with this matter. So our approach is to say, that is why I'm calling it a task team, that it has to execute its responsibilities, but if those responsibilities need a permanent unit, we'll draw lessons from that task team.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's the Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi talking about a new political killings task team that will be established within 4 weeks. But as you heard, it will have a broader mandate than just political killings. It will include the investigation of cases involving whistleblowers and taxi industry leaders as well. A lot of murders that have gone unsolved over a period of time.
This week on FC Meets, Busin Tisa of M Sports Marketing takes us on a journey of brand to fan synergy and sports marketing innovations. Find out how she navigates campaigns and activations that set the bar for fan experience. Tune into SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC Plus this Saturday, 6 September at 6 p.m. FC Meets, football made for community by community. Rechange our game. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
When you're uploading massive files, does it really matter what your internet's download speed is? With business class internet, you get a connection that's as fast going up as it is down. Your company deserves business class internet, because just reboot the router isn't a business strategy. Find reliability at vodacombusiness.co.za. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Further together. Vodacom Business.
Bafana Bafana will host Nigeria in a FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifier at the Toyota Stadium on Tuesday, 9 September at 6 p.m. Tickets are now available nationwide and online from 70 Rand for adults and 40 Rand for children at all Ticket Pro outlets, including Spar, Postnet, and all petrol stations. Get your tickets early to avoid disappointment. Come in Bafana Bafana supporter gear, ready to sing for a win. Gates will open at 3 p.m. If you are not in Bloemfontein, catch the game on SABC2. For more information, visit safa.net and at Bafana Bafana on all social media channels.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
Let's talk transport now for a moment. Durban has been brought to a standstill as taxi associations in eThekwini embarked on a 2-day strike, leaving thousands of commuters, school children and workers stranded. The shutdown follows the impounding of 25 minibus taxis, with operators claiming some vehicles had valid permits, sparking outrage in the sector. Just days ago, of course, a similar strike by taxi operators in Ekurhuleni in Gauteng, highlighting the simmering tensions over permits, enforcement and regulation nationwide. The economic fallout is already visible, with businesses reporting losses, students missing tests, and shoppers staying away from malls. So let's talk to Dr. Uleboheng Baikaki, a renowned transport economist from the Northwest University. Good morning to you, Doc, and thank you for your time. So there's this talk about the taxi industry and its role. I think it's worth reiterating how it fits in with the country's public transportation system, such that any disruption to that service, flawed as it is, the service, you feel it. So to recap for us the role that the minibus taxi industry plays within our broader transport sector.
No, thank you very much, sir. And good morning to listeners. The taxi industry has a vast role to play in our economy because it transports over 66% of our commuters in the country. And anything that happens to the taxi industry will severely affect the economy. The taxi industry, like any other transport, plays a critical role in transporting people, and it needs to be taken seriously when they have some demands of some sort.
So, in terms of the issues that they are raising around impounding of vehicles, issues of issuing out of permits. For instance, in Gauteng, we're told there's been a delay in the issuing of permits, which then law enforcement insists that these taxis must have permits. You hear conversations around the levels of violence within the taxi industry. What does that tell us about the structural weaknesses of this particular sector of public transportation, the taxi industry?
No, thank you very much. The problem with this issue is that we have the regulatory entities who are appointed sitting there but failing to do their work on time, and that will affect the taxi industry. However, the other thing that the taxi people must know is that the responsibility of transporting people lies with government. So government is giving you permission to provide services on their behalf. So if government feels like they are not compelled to give more permits, that means they have done their market research, they've done their analysis, and they realize that there is no need for them to provide additional licenses or operating licenses. So it is up to government to decide on that issue. But the problem comes when the market says, the market analysis says there is a need for more taxis, but government does not provide. Because we are providing, the taxi industry, they are providing the services on behalf of government. Only government got the constitutional mandate to provide public transport to commuters or whoever want to commute.
And there's also been this conversation about support for the minibus taxi industry in the form of subsidies. The industry itself complains about not being subsidized. What do you make of that conversation as a kind of a carrot and stick that perhaps government could apply to say, yes, we're going to subsidize you to a certain extent because, as you say, they undertake a service that ordinarily should be, to a large measure, be provided for by local municipalities, for example. So we're going to subsidize you, but at the same time, we're going to hold you accountable in terms of your compliance with all of the regulations. Would that work?
That will work, of course, and government has been talking about that, and they are blaming apartheid for all the systems, but they are not correcting it. We have been having the democratic government since 1994 up to date. But it seems like we don't have appetite to correct mishaps of the past, because the bus industry was subsidized during the colonial era, during the apartheid era. It has been subsidized. It continues to be subsidized because it was used to ferry a certain section or segment of the population. But now this one, because it's black-owned, transporting majority of blacks, I think it's 99% blacks. It's not subsidized. Something that needs to be corrected, but government is taking time to can reverse the mishaps of the past. So it needs to be subsidized because it is the taxi industry is providing the service on behalf of government. So it must subsidize them.
All right.
Because at the end of the day, if they are not operating 2 or 3 days, that means they are suffering, and they are now their taxes are taken back by the banks and other financial institutions that are subsidizing them.
Yeah. All right. I've got to thank you for your time. That's Dr. Uleboheng Baikaki, a renowned transport economics expert coming out from the Northwest University, weighing in there on the dynamics in the taxi industry.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. So things went well at Lord's, and I see Matthew Britsky is crediting leadership within the Proteas.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was 5 in 5 for Britsky. Wow, what a win for them. The Proteas had England chasing, but yes, it's the leadership that mattered yesterday, according to the Proteas batter, Matthew Britsky. He's credited coach Shukri Conrad for the direction and the clear goals as the team had a 5-run win over England in the second ODI at Lord's last night.
I think it starts at the top with Shukri Conrad. I think the sort of selections he's making and the direction he's wanting to go with the team, he's very clear on what he wants, and there's no sort of grey area, so guys are feeling really comfortable where they are and they know where they stand. So I think that's to start, and winning that Test Championship final has just breeded another sort of confidence in this change room, so it's good.
Let's go to rugby. The Springboks ready for tomorrow's Crunch Rugby Championship clash against New Zealand at Eden Park. 9 a.m. is when it starts. The world champions are chasing a first. That's their first win at the Auckland Fortress since 1937. Here's Coach Rassie Erasmus.
It's the belief at the vital moments, and that's always been the last couple of years. I know there was that big 57-0 by them way back then. And then we had one big one at Twickenham, but I think it's belief and the right decisions and momentum shifting moments which any team handle the best. So I can't pinpoint it to one or two things. I think in all areas of the game it's going to be a hell of a competitive.
In the meantime, the Bafana coach Hugo Broos not worried ahead of tonight's crucial Group C 2026 World Cup qualifier against Lesotho, as well as Tuesday's second match against Nigeria. Both kick off at 6 p.m. and both at the Free State Stadium in Bloemfontein.
We also know that Lesotho is also always a very tough opponent, so it will be a tough game. But again, when you are so far already, as we are for the moment, you can always do something more, and that we will try to do. I think it's very important. We put pressure on the other opponents. I think that Nigeria is playing only Saturday. That means that we have to take this opportunity with both hands.
And finally, golf. Michael Hollick cutted a 5 under 65, and that was during yesterday's second round of the Sunbet Challenge hosted by the Wild Coast Sun to take the lead by one stroke on 9 under par. The winner of last month's Eswatini Challenge had a good start in his round, rolling in 4 birdies on the front 9 and dropping only one shot on the par 4 second hole. And that's a wrap. We'll have more sport in the bag. Top of the hour, I'm Zaikan.
And in your headlines, civil organization Sakaleha says they'll continue to closely monitor the intervention of the national government at the Ditsobotla local municipality in Lichtenberg in the Northwest Province. Former members of the South African Tourism Board have taken Tourism Minister Patricia de Lille to the High Court, and the world of fashion has been paying tribute to the Italian designer Giorgio Armani, who has died at the age of 91. I'll be back with a full bulletin at 8 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just backlog coming out of Pretoria this morning. There's a broken down vehicle around, and a crash as well around Buerta Avenue. So coming through from sort of Rigel through the R21 on your way to Buerta Avenue, it's quite slow. And then you sort of get past that and you get into the lighter volume Friday through Mid-Ram, which is a really non-issue at this stage. The rest of Gauteng highways, everything where it should be. The only real sort of standout, I guess, is the mic one from Corlett Drive going up into Grayston Drive on your way to Sandton. But where you're normally stuck, you are again this morning, although those volumes are lighter. Breakdown coming out of Pietermaritzburg on your way to Durban. A truck broken down before Ashburton. It's quite a heavy queue to work through there. N7, or from the M7 on the N2 going north. That's jam-packed this morning from the Bluffex all the way through to Westwood Mall territory. And Cape Town just jam-packed on the M7, N7 run from Van Gate Mall all the way out passing Epping and up towards Beaufort Circle in the Epping area, passing Langa. So it looks like something's gone on there around that sort of N7 junction with Beaufort Circle. R300 quite slow heading up towards the N1. Once you get past the Van Riebeek Road off-ramp, it all gets a bit slow. And a big truck crash in the heart of Middelburg, right in central Middelburg. If you're driving through Mpumalanga on your way out towards Machadodorp or Belfast, just expect some delays after the Middelburg Toll Plaza. Big truck crash on that N4 eastbounds. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again in Dowling. So if the grapevine is to be believed in the telecoms sector, MTN wants more of Telkom's assets, yeah?
Yeah, these reports really don't come as a surprise to us. As many analysts have said, the telcos industry is ripe for consolidation, and this is due to the high costs of building infrastructure. And following the Competition Commission's approval of the Vodacom massive deal, analysts had said they expect more industry deal making, with MTN likely to make the next move. And now we're hearing from those reports out of Bloomberg saying that MTN is considering a potential takeover of Telkom. This is after failed attempts in 2022. Now, given the costs involved in building fiber infrastructure in particular, many say it only makes sense that MTN would seek to pool resources and share risks. Now, the company has previously expressed interest in acquiring Telkom's fiber assets housed in OpenServe, and even made a 30 billion rand bid a few years ago, which was withdrawn after rival Rain made a merger approach. Now, this potential deal could be a strategic move for MTN to stay competitive in the industry. Following those reports, Telkom's share price shot up, closing 13% higher in yesterday's session.
And in mining, any vestiges of Anglo-American platinum are gone now, right? Tell me about Anglo-American selling the final holding in Valterra Platinum.
So Anglo really ditching its last stake in Valterra Platinum, previously known as Amplats. The miner has raised 44.1 billion rand, selling its remaining 19.9% stake in the PGM group. Now, this cash injection, combined with a 15.7 billion rand special dividend from Valterra prior to its demerger, will allow the mining giant to reduce its debt burden. The sale was executed through a book build process, which was expected given its efficiency in placing shares in the market. Now, Anglo American's decision to divest its stake in Valterra is part of a broader strategy to refocus on core assets, specifically copper, iron ore, and fertilizer, as announced by CEO Duncan Wanblond last year after that BHP bid failed. Now, despite some setbacks, including the collapse of the Peabody deal and regulatory issues surrounding the sale of its nickel operations to MMG, as well as its struggles with selling its diamond unit De Beers, Anglo remains committed to its portfolio restructuring.
I want to tease your brain a little bit, if there's such an expression, but it's slightly off the track. So let's do the markets, and then I'll come back to this point about Valterra. How are we looking on the markets?
So kicking things off in Asia, stocks are in the green, with traders cheering the formalization of the Washington-Tokyo trade deal. And with that, we saw the Japanese Nikkei leading the gains in Asia, up close to 0.7%. And then moving over to Wall Street, futures are in positive territory. Traders there eyeing non-farm payrolls, which they hope will give the Fed more reason to reduce rates come the 17th of September. And then coming back home, trade was negative downbeat, with the all share shedding 1%. And this as commodity prices were under pressure, further weighing on local miners. Oil, another commodity in the red this morning, losing 0.25% at $66 per barrel. Oil traders are, though, gearing up for that OPEC Plus meeting taking place this weekend, which will provide further insight on production. And then over in the currency scene, trading in the rand is weaker, really on the back of a stronger dollar, sitting at 17.74 to the greenback this hour.
Now, I wanted to get your thoughts, Ntauleng, about the brand name Valterra Platinum. I remember at the time when you first mentioned it, the first few times, I said, "Oh my goodness, will I ever get used to this?" And you know, having you got so used to Amplats, and then suddenly they're saying Valterra. But it seems to me that it has actually caught on, and I don't know, maybe you'd know. I don't think they went on a massive publicizing of it and marketing, and you know, we're now Valterra, no longer Amplats, and if you're looking at it, it's the same institution, just a different name. So it got me thinking about other name changes, brand name changes. A bit later on in this hour, we'll be talking about name changes of cities and towns. So I started thinking about your 91s. Do you still remember what 91 was before?
Yes.
What was it?
It was part of Investec.
Yes, Investec Asset Management.
Yes. And then it broke away and became 91.
Yeah. And then you had your IOCO.
Yes, IOCO was EOH.
EOH, yeah. So it's an interesting case study, no? In terms of adapting and building a new brand from the ashes of an old brand.
I mean, even Transaction Capital recently changed their name. It's escaped my mind. But they've also tried to rebrand off of the back of the troubles they were going through last year.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of them. I mean, brands like your used to be PricewaterhouseCoopers. It's now strictly just simply PwC. Ernst & Young is just EY, etc., etc. Fascinating. All right, Ntauleng, we'll catch up with you one more time just after 8:30. That's Ntauleng there. Just something that just crossed my mind as she was reporting on Valterra Platinum since they had that name change and a rebranding.
Mzansi, don't miss out on playing Powerball and Powerball Plus for a life-changing 103 million rand in total guaranteed jackpots this Friday. That's right, play Powerball for the guaranteed 50 million rand and Powerball Plus for the guaranteed 53 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
The green and gold of Mzansi Africa and the green and white of Nigeria have a massive rivalry in search of victory. Bafana Bafana tackles the Super Eagles. The South clashes with the West. This is the FIFA World Cup African qualifier. South Africa versus Nigeria on Tuesday, 9 September at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC2. Also available on SABC radio stations at 6 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's pick up on that point about changing of names. Of course, not in the sense of corporates, as Ndauling and I were discussing, but in the sense that I'll be discussing with Christian Martin at about 10 to 7, as far as communities and towns and cities and other landmarks are concerned. Let me hear what this person has to say about that process.
Thulas, Limpopo is doing a stellar job in wiping off and erasing all apartheid and colonial names of the British, the Germans, and the Dutch because we understand their meaning. Remember, the province itself was called Northern Province back then. The capital city, Polokwane, was called Pietersburg. Elisras is now Lephalale. Mokopong was called Naboomspruit. Mokopane was called Potgietersrus. Varambat is now Bela. Nilstrom is now Mudimulle. Lutrigat is now Makado. And Sinwabarwana was called Bochum back then. So our next stop is to change Beggersford. And that's Moranyana town outside Tabazimbo on our way to Rustenburg called Northam. So in that department, to us, we are cruising nicely and we don't have nightmares. My name is Tapelo Pilusa from Gianika Mashangani village.
Tapelo, thank you for that. I'm just impressed by your ability to recall what the previous names were, because the more the new names have become entrenched, for me, I remember that there were a lot of Srasses in Limpopo. So you had your Ellis Ras, Potgietersrus Ras, I can't remember the third Ras. But if you ask me which one was which, I honestly can't remember it as well as you do. So quite impressive, your recollection. I wish we had just gone a step further and just talked about the importance thereof in affirming dignity versus this whole debate that we will have a bit later on about, you know, the cost of it, the opportunity cost that people talk to from time to time about saying you could have spent that money on something else. But thank you for that call.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Good morning to the SAFM listeners. Thulasizwe, I don't think there's enough effort to protect the local manufacturers across all sectors. This thing of having everything imported, it's actually, we are running a risk of losing the local manufacturers, losing the local-based companies, and relying on the important goods.
Segwanele, thank you for that. And of course, that's the conversation about what levels of protectionism are acceptable in terms of your economy. To what lengths will you go to protect a sector that's important to your own economy? I'm no expert in these matters, but I've always had the impression, and perhaps people who know better than this, than I do, will correct me if I'm wrong. The example that I've always had in my mind is why it is that South Africa doesn't allow imports of cheaper second-hand vehicles coming out from the Asian market. I've always had the sense that I've never really asked anyone to explain it, but I just took it for granted that if you are a manufacturer of vehicles, your economy manufactures vehicles, assembles vehicles on a large scale, on a scale as large as we do, you have an interest in ensuring that you don't undercut those companies, because believe you me, it wouldn't take long for those cheaper second-hand imports, particularly from Japan and China, to immediately flood the market. I've always had that sense. So it's an interesting point that you make about protecting those sectors that are important and critical for job creation in our economy. Let me go to Max in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Max.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. It's Matt.
Matt, yes. Please go ahead.
So I wanted to talk about the taxi industry as a whole. Is there a way of regulating the tax, and what does that look like in a way? Because I'm not sure how much one permit is for a taxi, and if you look at that, the whole taxi industry, there are people who have many taxis than others. How many taxis should one person have? Because if for example, I've maybe 40 taxis, I already have maybe 70% of the whole pie, 75% of the whole pie also.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm going to pay a permit for all those 40 taxis? There's no way. I don't believe so. It's the same logic if you apply it, like if you're I have best friends and I have 200 friends. I'm able to give you 100 friends.
Yes.
But then the higher the amount goes, and now let's take 50 million, it will be difficult for me to share 25 million with you. So I don't think these taxes or everybody is able to pay all the permits or all. Actually, a taxi can have permits but not be roadworthy, or it can have lots of unpaid tickets.
What do you suspect is at play here, Matt? What do you suspect is at play? If the requirement is that all taxis operating on the roads should be permitted, should have permits, and you are saying you don't believe that, for instance, people who own multiple taxis obtain permits for all of them. Do you believe that there are alternative illicit avenues through which people are securing these permits?
Yeah, definitely. Why would they give maybe 40 permits to Mr. Simelane and then they can't give more permits to others? So definitely somebody has access.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Matt, thank you for that call. Let's stay with that theme. Let me go straight to a call from Jackie in Joburg. Good morning to you, Jackie.
Hi, Thulasizwe. This is an issue I've been wanting to phone in for a long time about. I think with the taxi industry, our focus should be how can we make taxis safer. That should be the goal with whatever we do with taxis. So subsidies might provide us the opportunity to do that, and the subsidy should be based on somehow rewarded for safety.
I see.
Or I know there's many insurance apps, car insurance apps that can track if you go over 80 and how often you do that, and you get points, or you get points deducted if you go over the speed limit. So somehow we could do that with taxis in order to just try and make them safer.
But do you trust, though, Jackie, that there would be the political will to see that through? That, yes, we are going to subsidize you, but here's the, the catch. Here's what you're going to do in return for the subsidy. And I ask this, perhaps you've observed, there was this whole project around tax recapitalization. It was meant to achieve exactly that, help the industry acquire newer fleet, bigger vehicles, safer vehicles, etc. But I don't know the extent to which it's been able to achieve the stated objectives. And many people saying that it's simply because there's no political will to follow through on regulation and ensuring that, the industry complies with what was agreed.
Yes. My other idea is that could there be a nationwide strike of commuters who, for one day or whatever, they don't use the taxi, and see somehow if we can, because if taxis can strike and put commuters in a place where, they can't get to work, then surely the other way around, commuters take money away from the taxis for one day and demand a safer industry or safer transport.
Yeah, I hear you. That's one alternative. That's one alternative. Thank you for that, Jackie. Of course, the attendant difficulties, it would become that conversation that says, what price are you willing to pay in order to make the point to the taxi industry and ensure that they adhere to, the safety standards that you would like them to adhere to. Let me go to a call from Sianda in Kariega. Good morning to you, Sianda.
Thulas, good morning. Thulas, I am a former secretary of Santaco in the Eastern Cape.
Yes.
I think the topic, the discussion around the taxes, there are a lot of people who misunderstand how taxes operate. There has to be a show that is dedicated entirely on it so that you get to hear a lot of other things. For instance, the guest that you had about the operating licenses and the PREs, it is the role of government to provide transportation. There's a lot that government is not doing. The issue of subsidy, government would tell you that it's not subsidizing the taxi industry nor the train, but it's subsidizing a passenger. A passenger that goes into a taxi is not subsidized, but a passenger that goes into a bus is subsidized. So I think on that front, Thulas, maybe one day we just need to delve into it. There's a lot that I could unpack that needs to be unpacked, but people, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, all right.
I suggest that maybe at a convenient time, we should have a discussion.
A whole discussion.
I'm more than willing to answer.
No, absolutely. Thank you for that, Sianda. The team will keep your numbers and see if we can orchestrate. And in fact, we can whisper to my sister, Kathy Mutlatlana, because I think this is a conversation that would probably fit in nicely with what she does. She's got more time and would be able to expand on it. That's if she's not done a focus on the taxi industry in the last while. And if she has, I do suspect that it may be worth revisiting these conversations in light of recent developments.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
There's some heavy traffic around the M1 Pretoria Centurion section this morning. A crash and a breakdown on the M1 South before Botha Avenue. So traffic on a light Friday is really quite heavily backed up. Must be quite a big scene there. Coming through Rigel Avenue, down through the R21 and on your way towards Botha Avenue. Then at the same time, there's an issue that's busy unfolding. We're just getting on it now. N1 North around Rigel. So just heading off the R21 ramps onto the M1 or on the M1 North, making your way through towards Rigel Avenue. That's all getting a bit busy as well. The Joburg side not looking too bad this morning. Traffic where it should be at this stage. The Mike 1 going into Sandton looking a little bit slow. Just a queue coming up from the Melrose area into that. The N3 between Elands Interchange and Modderfontein Road slow as far as Galuli's this morning. After Galuli's, it does tend to ease up, and there's some pressure on the M1 both ways into Willie Mandela. Broken down truck after Market Road on your way to Durban, so Pietermaritzburg to Ashburton being held up there. Cape Town, the N7 passing Langa up towards Viking Way in Epping, very slow, and it looks like something's just happened around Sable Road on the N1 inbound. All of a sudden, that's backlogging through to Plattercliff Hill, and the Kuberg Road heading in towards work at Killarney or trying to get through to Dunoon. Quite a heavy pressure passing the refinery up towards the Bloberg Road junction. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 850-gram Parmalat pre-packed cheese for $119.99 and 250 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 2 kg Tastic parboiled rice for $34.99 and 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million rand in instant cash. Price is valid until 7 September 2025, while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Let's rewind 6 years, when Twitter was still Twitter, not a letter of the alphabet. TikTok was simply the sound your clock made. And Zoom just meant enlarging a picture. So it makes you wonder, what will the next 6 years bring? Hino trucks now come standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty, covering everything from pistons to gears. So although a lot can change in 6 years, our warranty promise won't. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Mzansi, don't miss out on playing Powerball and Powerball Plus for a life-changing 103 million rand in total guaranteed jackpots this Friday. That's right. Play Powerball for the guaranteed 50 million rand and Powerball Plus for the guaranteed 53 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
It's coming up to 6 minutes to 8. Port Elizabeth became Gqeberha. Queenstown is now Komani, and Uitenhage was renamed Kariega. examples of how the country has been reshaping its symbolic landscape in recent years. As Heritage Month begins, the chairperson of the Eastern Cape Geographical Names Committee, Christian Martin, has hit back at critics who say name changes come at the expense of basic service delivery. Martin argues that this is a false choice, stressing that restoring dignity through names and providing houses, roads and water are not mutually exclusive. He says colonial era names are not mere labels but tools of cultural erasure that still haunt communities today. Let's hear more about his arguments. I'm joined by Christian Martin, Eastern Cape Provincial Geographical Names Committee Chairperson. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. I think the starting point is you've said this is not a zero-sum game. Tell me what you mean by that, this choice between changing names of towns and cities and other landmarks on the one hand and delivering services such as schools, hospitals, roads, water, etc. All right, I think we've just lost Christian Martin there. I don't know what happened. He was on the line. So you should look out for that article. He actually penned a whole piece making this argument. I believe we have him back on the line. Mr. Martin, good morning. So let's start with you explaining what you mean when you say this is not a zero-sum game where you are either renaming cities, towns, and other landmarks on the one hand or delivering services.
I think first, good morning to the listeners and good morning to yourself. I think you've actually answered the question about zero-sum game, where I just wanted to emphasize this is not the either or either situation, this or that one. It's not a choice. It's like, for instance, for me, I believe it's a coin with two sides. As we would say, the two sides of one coin. We have transformation, and the transformation agenda, when we start with our constitution, is to correct the ills of the past, the injustices that have happened in this country. We should never shy away about what happened colonially as well as during apartheid in this country. We mustn't forget about the Group Areas Act and all those acts that was put in place to erase histories of the indigenous people of Southern Africa. And that is why I say you can't compare housing versus name change. You can respect the feeling. Remember, all of us are living in the same South Africa. We are going through the same traumas of service delivery and all these type of things. We are going through it, all of us together. But then there's some of us that are still going through the trauma of this thing of being formally exploited, formally marginalized, formally erasure of our culture and so forth. So therefore, I come with the argument and try to stir debate. This is what this is all about, is to stir debate amongst people. Because there's a narrative from a certain group that would say, no, you can use this money that you are using for name changes, you can use it for housing. But what we try to forget or conveniently forget is that there's two separate powers here involved. It's local government, provincial, national government. It's two different budgets that we have here. It's like, for instance, trying to say that no, because health don't deliver, take that money over to education. No, you go and correct what is wrong in health and you let education go on with its mandate constitutionally. And it's the same here. If there's things wrong in local government, the minister responsible for local government and treasury should intervene as per the constitution. And if the minister of sports, arts and culture, as it seems, is doing a fair job in the transformation agenda, let's give him the compliment for it.
But what you say to those that say, even though they are two separate budget lines in terms of budgeting processes in government, the point about it is that if you are pressed in terms of service delivery, you could reduce the line item that talks to name changes, for example, whatever the line item is at a local government level or at whatever level, provincial level, national level, you could still reduce that and divert it actively to say, let's build toilets for children in schools.
You see, the thing is that would inflict a double injury to our people. there's some of us that understand. Let me be very frank now when I talk about the koi and the sun. If you've listened, and especially during this Heritage Month, our former President Thabo back in 1996 when he said, I'm an African. And I want to quote the specific area of the koi and sun that has been killed until the brink of extinction. And there's a plausible silence on what these people have gone through. Now, here is an opportunity to get dignity and an identity of those people back. And you really truly want to tell me that the argument can be we must take away from this line function and give to another line function. As far as I'm concerned, if they want to take away from line functions, there's a lot of salaries and CEO monies that we can lessen and take to wherever money is needed and services is needed. When it comes to the transformation agenda, the preamble of our constitution is very clear that the injustices of the past must be corrected. And the names of the past is clear. It's like I'm saying in the same statement. It's like truly enforcing a rape victim after giving birth of this child to give that child the name of the rapist. That is how serious this matter is. To stand up every day and look into, let's say, Cirkenaven, General this one, Graaf that one, and all these lords that receive this place's names in honor against the names that were found here. Remember, you must never forget, South Africa was not a clean slate. When people came in here, there was people staying here that gave names to these areas. And when other people came in, they didn't just take away the names, but they put and actually honored those that killed the others for these names. So it's just fair at the end of the day that we must build, one, a collective history, two, identity, and our cultures must be shared.
All right, I've got to leave it there. Thank you for that. You've got the debate started. That's Christian Martin, Eastern Cape Provincial Geographical Names Committee Chairperson. Let's go to Chanduko Ligege with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 0800 60,000 today.
Thank you, Thulasizwe. Your top stories at this hour: Sakaleha to monitor government's intervention in Ditsobotla, and former SA Tourism Board members take minister to court. Good morning. With the news at 8 o'clock, I am Chanduko Ligege. Civil organization Sakaleha says they will continue to closely monitor the intervention of the national government at the Ditsobotla local municipality in Lichtenburg in the Northwest Province. They've been assisting residents who have been experiencing serious service delivery challenges for years. Hlengiwe Mkhalipi is an EFF member, while Kwenza Madlala represents the MK party in parliament.
I think there's a progress. Let's just give them a chance. Remember, they were dissolved. We were here, we deployed here. 20 wards. It was not very easy task to go and campaign. But now, if they found each other and work as different political parties, let us welcome that.
I do not place much confidence in that process, because it's the flow of corruption. It's a synergy across the ruling party and its partners. So you bring who? You bring someone from national government with a mandate to come and turn the situation around. The likelihood of positive outcomes is very minimal.
The DA has announced plans to present a motion to remove the acting corporate services director at Stellenbosch Municipality following allegations of racism. Alexandra Kannemeyer has come under fire after a video surfaced showing him making racially charged remarks about white employees. In the footage, Kannemeyer suggests making life difficult for white workers to force their resignations and claims that appointing skilled candidates often prioritizes white men, a practice he says must end. DA National Spokesperson is Willie Okamp.
The Democratic Alliance will also put a request to the municipal manager to suspend Mr. Kannemeyer from all positions that he holds within the municipality. The right to suspend lies with the municipal manager, not with council, because of the fact that Mr. Kannemeyer is not a senior director or employee in the municipality.
The 39-year-old man accused of killing his wife, Dr. Nondumiso Sibanyoni, is expected to appear at the Nelspruit Regional Court in Mbombela, Mpumalanga, today. Sifiso Sibanyoni is facing charges of murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Sibanyoni is accused of fatally shooting Dr. Sibanyoni outside a fitness center in Mbombela last year. The couple was in the process of a divorce when the deceased was shot and killed. Previously, the accused was denied bail after no exceptional circumstances were found to release him. In other news, former members of the South African Tourism Board have taken the Tourism Minister Patricia de Lille to the High Court. De Lille dissolved the board citing irregularities and alleged financial mismanagement, among others. Minister de Lille has appointed 6 interim members to manage the South African tourism affairs until a new permanent board is in place. A former board member, Opapilani.
Parliamentary committee members expressed their dissatisfaction because we wanted the country to hear our side of the story, because they've been listening to the minister's side of the story. And after that meeting, we then took a decision that we must now take the minister to court, because it was quite clear in that parliamentary committee that there was no basis for the minister to dissolve the board other than protecting corruption and protecting the CEO of SA Tourism.
The world of fashion has been paying tribute to the Italian designer Giorgio Armani, who has died at the age of 91. The American designer Ralph Lauren described him as an icon who never strayed from his vision, while fellow Italian Donatella Versace said Armani has been a history-making giant. The Hollywood actress Mayra Sorvino is Armani's friend who wore many of his designs.
He was like eternal, this brilliant, kind man who was so talented and created this whole kind of sophisticated, understated glamour that really defined the 90s in a way. And I wore his beautiful designs to most of my most important moments in my career and in my personal life. And he was there making it beautiful, making it special.
A recap on the top story: at aid civil organization Sakaleha says they will continue to closely monitor the intervention of the national government at the Tsobotla local municipality in Lichtenberg in the Northwest Province. For SAFM News, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
Does your wallet need a break? Then an Outsurance quote is just what you need. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. Make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Savings or cash, you always get something out. Get a quick and easy quote today. Call 0800 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SAFM Sports Headlines. Soccer action. Bafana coach Hugo Bruges setting his plan in motion as they're ready for Lesotho tonight, and will bring you US Open Women's final action. It's Arina Sabalenka who will take on Amanda Anisimova. All the details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Very heavy out of Pretoria now. Crash on the N1 South between the R21 and Boerta Avenue. Traffic stacked all the way back through to Rigel and working back to Gauteng. Opposite side of the highway, it looks like a lost load on the N1 going north up to Gauteng. So that's pretty slow getting up from the R21. So really heavy going south and a big slowdown going north as well. It is, of course, a ZCC weekend up at Moria. So that N1 probably carrying some extra volume as well. Crash on Joburg's N1 North now. Rivonia Road, very heavy coming up from Randburg Joburg through four ways on your way towards that crashing. The N3 from Ilan's interchange through to Galuli stays pretty busy as well. Coming out of Pietermaritzburg, a broken down truck between Market Road and Ashburton still causing delays. That is quite heavy on your way to Durban. A truck crash on your way to Joburg this morning, just past Villiers up by the Dustville exit, so there's some queuing pressure there. Cape Town, big volume on the N2 through Somerset West, not only outbound but also inbound as well. That section of the N2 under quite a bit of pressure. And the M3 driving in but slow this morning, Paradise Road, Bishop's Court, and then from Rhodes Drive through to Hospital Bed, it all backs up as well. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 8. Welcome to it, the third hour of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief here on SAFM 104 to 107. In this hour, we'll be talking all things sport. We'll start with the conversation around Bafana Bafana and the qualifier that they are playing against Lesotho. Then we'll talk rugby. In fact, with the football, we'll be talking to Nkululeko Nkeu from Itiski Media. And then immediately after that, we'll talk to Thando Mxoli, senior SABC sports reporter, previewing what's coming up in the rugby this coming weekend. The action out in Eden Park, where history is at stake between the Springboks and the All Blacks. And of course, we'll talk Women's Rugby World Cup and the match that is happening on Sunday. But before we get into those conversations, let me reflect on one or two of the messages that you've been sending. Someone is asking, do SAPS units get funding from provincial governments? Why is a provincial premier assuring us about funding and operations of this unit? That's the political killings task team that Premier Panyaza Lesufi is talking about, that will be established in Gauteng within 4 weeks. The context of that is that policing is one of those areas of responsibility where the Constitution dispersed them between national, provincial and local government. And so each one of the spheres of government has got some level of responsibility. That's why you have a metro police in the certain metros, and you have a provincial MEC for community safety, whatever it's called. And as you heard from Panyaza Lesufi, the conversation has been happening with the involvement of the Minister, Firoz Kachalia, as well as the National Police Commissioner. So it's all integrated, and he did refuse to commit to the levels of resourcing and saying that that's operational. So that's the response I can give to that. Then someone else says, I'm very impressed with Premier of Gauteng, Mr. Lesufi. I applaud him. Indeed, he is a leader. I wish we can have leaders like him. So that coming from Pale out in Turflop. And then someone else immediately saying that Panyaza is all smoke and mirrors as usual. Where is crime intelligence? What do they do all day? It is no secret that if a taxi owner is to be killed, every member contributes, and you still don't know from 2010 who killed who. This task team nonsense, who says the KZN1 convicted people? They spend more time at the oyster box than arresting anyone. That is the view there of someone who did not give their name there. Lastly, let me read this one from Tunzi. I quoted Professor Thuli Madonsela saying that sometimes when you go out to investigate everything, you may end up investigating nothing. And so Mtunzi taking issue with that, saying, well, saying it's so doesn't make it so. Let everything be investigated. Let's open the window. Let the light shine through, because the truth is in them. Mtunzi, I agree with you 100%. I suppose I need to qualify before people, start asking Prof. Madonsela what she meant. What she was talking about, it was in the context of the State Capture Commission of Inquiry about the terms of reference, that sometimes when you have a unit, let's call it that goes out to investigate a specific issue, when you pile it on with other issues, the specialization of that unit may be lost. You may end up with a unit that just basically is doing what the ordinary police are doing on a daily basis. So sometimes when you have a specific issue, you need to focus on that issue and make sure that you resource for that issue and you have a clear target of what you're trying to do. That's not to say that other issues must not be investigated. So I thought maybe let me qualify so that you understand the quotation I was making there. All right, let's keep the conversation going. The number to dial 086 000 2032 or send me WhatsApp voice notes or messages to 061 410 4107. Let's get the third hour of the Friday edition underway.
Let's rewind 6 years, when Twitter was still Twitter, not a letter of the alphabet. TikTok was simply the sound your clock made. And Zoom just meant enlarging a picture. So it makes you wonder, what will the next 6 years bring? Hino trucks now come standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty, covering everything from pistons to gears. So although a lot can change in 6 years, our warranty promise won't. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
Get ready for the 26th edition of the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. 3 memorable days from the 26th to the 28th of September across 4 spectacular stages of the Sandton Convention Center. Join over 50 incredible world-renowned stars like Esperanza Spalding, the Baylor Project, Andile Yenana, Michelle Ndegeyo-Chelo, Tresor, Jose James, Omo Sangare, Jasmia Horn, Gabi Motuba, Benjamin Jefta, Nomfundo Kaluva, Mondli Ngobo, Lakeisha Benjamin, Alun Wade, and others, on a musical journey deep into the heart and art of jazz. Take me there. Get your tickets at Ticketmaster now.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
8:15. Let's turn to this now. Lesotho's football bosses are drawing a line in the sand, warning that they lodge a protest the moment Bafana Bafana star midfielder the moment Bafana Bafana field their star midfielder Teboho Mokoena in tonight's World Cup qualifier. LIFA, Lesotho Football Association Secretary General Mohosi Mohapi insists Mokoena never properly served a suspension for yellow card accumulation and says he'll act within minutes of kickoff if the player is on the field of play. The clash in Bloemfontein has already been dogged by confusion over the stadium venue, but now the focus has shifted squarely onto eligibility. Let's speak to Nkululeko Nkewu, co-founder of Itiski Media, as well as a football broadcaster. Good morning to you, Nkululeko, and thank you for your time. So this makes for fascinating build-up to the Bafana Lesotho match coming up. What's our understanding of where things stand with Teboho Mokoena ahead of tonight's match?
Good morning to the season. Good morning to your listeners as well. It's an interesting one. If you remove yourself from being a South African and being partial, it's an interesting case because Teboho Mokoena was suspended for accumulating 2 yellow cards, and then in a match where he was supposed to serve that suspension, he was paid by South Africa, which means South Africa forgot that he was suspended, and therefore he should not have played. Usually when that happens, a team either lodges a protest or failure to do that, they write a complaint within a timeliest manner, which then means that South Africa would then forfeit those points because he becomes an ineligible player. Now, Lesotho were not aware, South Africa were not aware, because that game, I think it was a year apart from the previous game that he had been suspended. So it's kind of understandable, but of course people must do their jobs. So South Africa then played, a few days later, played a game against Benin. Upon finding out, and upon the furor of people saying that the player was supposed to be suspended, South Africa will be deducted 3 points. South Africa then took Mokoena out of the squad against Benin. Now, what Lesotho, this is what makes this very fascinating. What Lesotho is saying is that Mokoena did not properly serve a suspension because he played against us. Now, South Africa cannot come back to Lesotho and say, no, he did serve a suspension against Benin, because if South Africa admits that, they are then maybe adding layers to the case of Lesotho, which they threaten to take the case to CAS, to the Court of Arbitration for Sports. Where the complexity lies here is what will FIFA or CAS do, because Lesotho did not protest the first game, and they did not file a complaint in a timeless manner. However, someone was killed, a crime was committed, Just because no one saw it doesn't mean that the crime was not committed, for example.
So to simplify it, Nkululeko, is this like South Africa saying that we did pay a fine, in that, the fine being that he didn't play against Benin, but Lesotho saying, no, that's the wrong currency that you used altogether. The fine you should have paid should have been in the form of the game against us out in Polokwane.
Absolutely. And to add to what you're saying, by South Africa saying that we did suspend him as opposed to rest him, because when players are not playing football matches, it doesn't mean that it's serving a suspension. Sometimes it could be that he was injured and we arrested him. If South Africa comes out and say, oh yeah, we did serve the suspension, but in the match against Lesotho, well, then it will be an admission from our side to say that we do acknowledge that he accumulated 2 yellow cards. Whereas he was supposed to serve a suspension against Lesotho, he served it against Benin. Now, we cannot make up our own rules and choose which matches we serve suspensions in. So it's best that we don't respond to that, and it's also best that we don't field him tonight, because if he continues to play, Lesotho has a valid question of, so when did he serve a suspension? So Lesotho is saying that they might take the case to the Court of Arbitration for Sport if FIFA fails to deal with this. Now, what's interesting is that I think a crime was committed, someone was killed, and someone must be arrested, which is to say that we should get those 3 points expunged or deducted from us. Maybe what's interesting is that do they go to Lesotho, or there are other instances as well where we say if we are guilty, which we were, do we only get to be fined by FIFA or CAF? So it's an interesting one, but Lesotho has thrown a further interesting spurner in the works by saying that if you continue to play him tonight, then when did he serve that suspension? That means it also places tonight's match in jeopardy, because they will then protest this match. Then it means instead of 3 points that we got, we will probably beat them, of course, tonight because they're a smaller nation. We will then be at jeopardy to lose 6 points. So it's a very interesting one if you remove yourself from being partial in South African.
So having said everything we've said, Nkululeko, where does this leave us in terms of the group stages of the qualifiers, as well as with Nigeria coming up on Tuesday as well? Is it time for us to start taking out our calculators about the path to qualification?
So taking out this current context, South Africa are leading the group with their nearest rivals by 5 points. If you minus 3 points, we are leading by 2 points. So that means that we have to beat Lesotho, don't play Mokoena, beat Nigeria, beat anyone in front of us, and then we'll qualify for the World Cup. Even if maybe we draw one match along the way, if we beat Lesotho, we beat Nigeria, we will have a huge buffer to qualify for next year's World Cup in America.
Say that again and run it by me a bit slower. I'm sorry. the math beat me.
So tonight, let's play against Lesotho. Let's beat them. Don't play Mokwenas. Don't put our 3 points in jeopardy. We should beat Lesotho. We are better than them.
All right.
On Tuesday, let's play against Nigeria. Let's beat them. And then that means we'll have enough points. Not enough, it won't be mathematically that we confirmed, because there will still be like 2 or 3 matches left. But we'll be in an almost unassailable position. If we beat Lesotho and Nigeria, we'll be in a very good position to qualify for America next year.
All right. Thank you for that. Nkululeko Nkewu, co-founder of Itiski Media, as well as football broadcaster.
Big stories of the day. #The Morning Brief.
All right, and of course the other bit of action will be happening out in Eden Park, and it's between the Springboks and the All Blacks, where history is at stake. Let's get the expert views of Thando Mqoli, SABC News senior sports journalist. Good morning to you, Thando. It's great to connect with you. So it's always competitive, and competitive is perhaps an understatement between the Springboks and the All Blacks. But with history at stake, how does it set up for the clash that's coming up?
Good morning to Listen. Good morning to your listeners. Listen, it doesn't get bigger than this. The only bigger game is the World Cup final, which South Africa won a couple of years back. But still, it's almost like redemption time for the All Blacks. Also, it's another big milestone for the New Zealanders. Ardie Savea, a great servant of New Zealand rugby, will be playing in his 100th test for the All Blacks. So it's lining up to be a huge one. Captain Siya Kolisi basically being drafted into the team a week early. He'll be coming up against his good friend Ardie Sevilla, and I want to see how that physical encounter is going to pan out. Again, Rassie Erasmus has almost gone back to his tried and tested players. We've almost gone back to our DNA. And New Zealand, to some degree, have done the same. But they seem to have a lot of question marks about how they're playing at the moment. Just listening to all the chatter and the opinions coming out of New Zealand, seems like a lot of people are questioning the methods of current coach Scott Robinson. So it should be interesting.
Yeah. So there's the 88-year no win in Eden Park, as well as the 50-test unbeaten streak. What dimension and element do those two add?
A huge one. These are two very proud nations. I mean, like, that the last time we beat them was 1937. And for the people that went to Maritzburg College, there's a little stat for them. There was a Maritzburg College old boy that played in the 1937 team. And this one also has one Maritzburg old boy. So we'll see. Maybe this is a good omen for us. But that said, I think having not lost at Eden Park against very good teams in the last 31 years, this modern-day All Black side is carrying a lot of pride and a lot of history, and they're a very proud nation. So again, I don't think it will be easy. It will be very emotional. Again, these are two teams with a lot of things to prove. The South Africans, on one hand, are sitting on a lovely stat of basically having beaten the All Blacks in 4 games in a row. They have one more to make it 5, which is almost it will call a national crisis in New Zealand if that happens. They also have that really, really big cherry on top of being the first team to beat them at Eden Park in 31 years. So the incentive is there. These are 2 boxes that this current crop of South African teams, South African team has not ticked. So again, it's really, really matching up to be a good one. You look across the field in terms of the team selections. Geez, the matchup in the loose forward, physically, it's going to be crazy in the collision points. Then you look at the Bowden, the Barrett brothers, as halfback playing for Flav and first centre for New Zealand against the Pollard and Damian Delinda, who have shown the quality over the years. So it really is shaping up to be great.
So a few weeks ago, when you and I were talking, Tando, we were talking about a certain level of jitters around Rassie's strategies and tactics. Has that settled ahead of this Eden Park clash?
It definitely would have settled. They've gone back to a team that they know. If you look at the majority of these guys, they played in the last World Cup. Some of them even played in the 2018 World Cup. So he's found players that have served him well in the 2 terms he's been Springbok coach.
Lastly, Tando, let's talk Springbok women. How is it shaping up for Sunday, South Africa versus France? And how have the last 2 matches against Italy and Brazil, how have those set up that clash?
Tricky one for Coach Space the Brain, because what does he do? Does he rest his key players for this one? We've already qualified for the quarterfinals. Does he risk does he bring out his first team and risk injury leading up to the quarterfinals where we could be facing the world champions, New Zealand? It's a tricky selection conundrum for Space the Brain, but still, I think we've got the quality. We've shown that we are a team that's got momentum. We seem like a united team. We seem like we've got the players to match every single team at this tournament physically. A lady like Afeza Sedler, for example, has been world-class at this tournament. Nadine is also another one who's really shone, whether it's fullback or fly-off or scrum-off. It's got a similar momentum to the men's team when we won back-to-back world championships. It's just looking like it's written in the stars somewhere that we could go very far at this tournament.
All right, great stuff. Tando Mxoli, senior SABC News sports journalist, just giving you a glimpse into what to expect in the rugby this coming weekend.
This week on FC Meets, Busin Tisa of M Sports Marketing takes us on a journey of brand to fan synergy and sports marketing innovations. Find out how she navigates campaigns and activations that set the bar for fan experience. Tune into SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC Plus this Saturday, 6 September at 6 p.m. FC Meets, football made for community by community. Reach entire game. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game. So you thought you were building a business. In this economy,
Good luck. But day by day, somehow it grew. You became payroll, procurement, PR, and pressure valve. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. What's that saying again? What doesn't kill your business makes it stronger? Or at least it should be that. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore. It's who you are. And you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
I know we're running late, but why are you here? Did you hear me doing sport?
Listen,
Did you hear me doing sport?
My
Right?
time has finished. Can I wrap
Amen.
up?
You know, why are you here? Also, I dare you to repeat what you said off air. You said Tulas Prat what? Prat what?
Bleep. Bleep.
Prat de Fiel. No.
Prat
It
de
was
Fiel.
stronger than de Fiel.
Yeah, it starts with a K, it ends with a K.
All right,
Anyway,
talk to us about
let's
Bafana.
just go with this match. We hope it ends in a win. Bafana got a big one tonight, and it could be World Cup, and we could be there playing. But tonight we'll be playing in Bloemfontein, 6 p.m. the kickoff. Catch it live on SABC as we take on Lesotho in our 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier. Here's the Bafana coach Hugo Bruges, who says we can't afford to drop any points.
We all know that the next two games can maybe, with a little bit luck, can maybe the final step to qualification to the World Cup. So from our side, we are very motivated to play the game of tomorrow and try to win it. At the other side, we also know that Lesotho is also always a very tough opponent.
Let's go to the South African Football Association CEO. Lydia Monyapao has revealed their expectations for the national men's under-20 side for the upcoming FIFA Under-20 World Cup. Having been crowned African champions at the CAF Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt this year, expectations have been raised.
Look, we are always very ambitious, highly ambitious. So obviously for us is to get to the semi-finals. You know, I think they've shown the quality that they possess as a team, and we believe that they can get that far. But you must aim here and then fall here. So we are hoping that they will get to the semi-finals and finals, surprise us, get to the finals. But it's going to be tough. We have to also be realistic to say it's going to be a tough competition for them out there. But we know that they're going to put their best foot forward.
On to cricket, Proteas batter Matthew Britska has described his captain Temba Bavuma as a genius and declared they are lucky to have him following their 5-run win over England in the second ODI at Lord's.
Yeah, he's very softly spoken, but to be honest, I was just watching him on the field today, going about his business and captaining. He's a genius in his decision making, and I learned so much today from the decisions he was making. He doesn't talk a lot, but he sort of leads with his actions, and we're lucky to have him.
And finally, tennis. Amanda Anisimova eliminated the 4-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka to reach the US Open final, where she will take on Arina Sabalenka, who beat Jessica Pegula. That's your sport. We'll volley back with more around 12:30 with John Hediger. I'm Zai Khan.
And in your headlines, a 42-year-old off-duty police officer has been shot and killed in Luandle, Strand in the Western Cape province. Civil organisation Sakaleha says they will continue to closely monitor the intervention of the national government at the Ditsobotla local municipality in Lichtenburg in the Northwest Province. The U.S. Health Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. has defended his controversial policies during a hearing before a bipartisan congressional committee. More news at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very busy on the Pretoria section of the M1 this morning. A crash at Buerta Avenue early, just slow coming down from Rigel Avenue on your way from Pretoria into Centurion. And then northbound, there was a lost load incident, plus a breakdown around Rigel. So that's quite heavy on that side from Buerta Avenue up through the R21 towards Rigel. Complicated on the N1. It is going to be a very busy, high-volume day today. There's a ZCC event, a conference event. It's going to be very well attended at Moria, just outside Polokwane. So big volumes expected on that N1 across the course of the day. It'll start to even increase in the afternoon and possibly go through the evening and another push away tomorrow morning. Drive carefully next 24, 48 hours on that N1 going north out of Pretoria to Polokwane. And of course, when it all comes back at the same time on a Sunday, those toll plazas are going to be under some pressure. Joburg N1 north up towards Rivonia Road. Heavier crash there at Sunning Hill. Traffic all the way back through towards Malabongwe Drive. So Randburg up through four ways under pressure. The breakdown between Pietermaritzburg and Ashburton, that scene has been cleared. There is a breakdown if you're going to Pietermaritzburg this morning. That breakdown around Cliffdale, so just out from Shongweni and Keyridge. That all gets very heavy. Cape Town to Toys Kloof Pass now closed. That'll stay closed until about the end of October for roadwork. So if you normally go Powell, Worcester over the top there, you'll have to reroute through the Huguenot Tunnel. And of course, don't forget your toll fees to get through there. And the N1 into Cape Town under pressure this morning. It's the busiest highway, slow going to Sable Road, and then more delays. Kubo get a change up over the elevated freeway into city centre area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again in Dowling. So tell me about these talks about acquisition of ArcelorMittal South Africa. This is between them and IDC, yeah?
That's right, Tula. So negotiations between ArcelorMittal, AMSA's parent company, and the IDC over the potential sale of the local unit have reportedly stalled due to disagreements over valuation. Now, the IDC had offered around 7 billion rands for AMSA, but the parent company is seeking a higher amount. Now, despite the challenges, both parties may still reach an agreement before the due diligence period that ends on the 30th of September. The IDC has been exploring options to preserve steel operations crucial to the local economy, particularly since AMSA is in the process of winding down those loss-making mills that produce essential steel grades for the auto and mining industries. Of course, that move likely to result in 3,500 jobs and 100,000 indirect jobs being lost. The IDC, in the meantime, says the potential takeover aims to preserve those jobs and also preserve strategic industrial capacity.
Sure. So hopefully there's hope there. Hopefully there's hope. What? It's
a Friday.
It's a Friday. My brain is Fridaying. Hopefully there's hope. Hopefully there's hope in Dowling for some jobs to be saved there, yeah?
Definitely. If that deal does go through, we could probably see some jobs being saved at those mills.
It's good to see that there's at least some kind of effort that is on the go, that we're not all just, sitting on our hands and hoping for a miracle. Why is the CEO designate at Nampak resigning? This is the current COO, yeah?
That's right, Thulas. And this, of course, spooking markets as the firm's succession plan has hit a roadblock. The CEO designate, Andrew Hood, resigning due to personal family reasons. Now, Hood was set to take over as CEO from Phil Roux next month. Roux will now remain in his position until a replacement is found, and Nampak says this will ensure leadership continuity. Roux has been instrumental in the company's turnaround, with the group going from loss-making to making a profit, and this as Roux was behind that turnaround strategy. Over in 2023, Nampak sold its Nigerian business and improved its financials. Now, while that turnaround is underway, Nampak's board has prioritized finding a new CEO and will keep shareholders updated on the progress. Now, Hood's appointment as COO in April was part of the succession plan where he would eventually succeed Roux, but his resignation has prompted Nampak to restart the process. Now, Roux's leadership has been pivotal, as mentioned, in Nampak's comeback, and the company is keen on maintaining stability during this transition period.
So what kind of a day can we expect in the markets on this Friday in Dowling?
So looking at local markets, the JSE likely to open the last day of trade for the week in positive territory following international peers. In terms of company news, traders will wake up to results from African Rainbow Minerals while also digesting talks of consolidation in the telcos space, as reports suggest that MTN is eyeing Telkom's assets again. Shifting gears to the currency scene, the rand trending weaker at 17.73 to the dollar this morning. Oil is also on the back foot. Traders there eyeing, of course, the OPEC Plus meeting, and ahead of that, Brent is at $66 per barrel. Back to equities, stateside futures are in the green, with investors raising bets for a Fed rate cut later this month. This, of course, on the back of some of the softer labor reports we got earlier this week. And then lastly, in Asia, markets on track to close the week in positive territory. Investors there really cheering the formalization of the US-Japan trade deal.
Hopefully there's hope that you will have a great weekend. Darling Lichala has kept you updated on all things to do with business, economics and the markets over the last 2.5 hours.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to journey into the past while shaping the future under the theme, Reimagine Our Heritage Institutions for a New Era. We celebrate the stories, traditions, and voices that define who we are as a nation. From vibrant conversations to thought-provoking debates, SAFM is where heritage meets innovation, connecting generations and keeping our culture alive in a changing world. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
20 minutes to 9. So a few weeks ago, it must be about 2 weeks ago, we had a call from Dumisani, and it had to do with a kind of program for youth employment and a pathway for young people to be employed, but that had gone not as well as it should have. Let me just put it at that level. And it involved, according to Dumisani, Umgeni Water Services. We battled to understand what exactly is the issue, but to their credit, Umgeni Water have been persistent in following through to say, what was that caller talking about and how can we assist? So we are able to bring you an update on that. But before I do that, let me play back that call that triggered it all.
In fact, I want to talk about CETA because my nephew was taken by Umgeni Water to assist, recruited to assist in one of the schools from May this year. Fortunately, we're so excited because they were promised that they will get some stipend, around six grand per month. But every time when they're supposed to be paid on the 25th, maybe from the 24th, they send them the message, please update your documents. I think it's a trick.
Which CETA is this, Dumisan?
Sorry?
Which CETA is this?
They got internship from, my nephew is a teacher graduate.
Okay.
So because schools here in KZN, they're short of teachers and all this, I think they go through the private sector to help them. So they told them it's not about Department of Education, but it's about, their contract is from Umgeni Water in Durban.
All right, so that was the call that we took about 2 weeks ago, if I estimate correctly. Let's hear now from Peter Thompson, who is Managing Director of Umgeni Water Services. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. So you were anxious as Umgeni Water to follow through on this call. What were you able to establish? In fact, at some point you were asking that we connect you with Dumisani. Tell me how that went and what you've been able to establish about the problem that he was highlighting.
Now, thank you, Thulasizwe, and good morning to the SAFM listeners. Thulasizwe, we, from Umgeni Water Services point of view, we work with quite a few of the CETAs, but we've tried to trace Dumisani in multiple attempts, but unsuccessful so far. but we can guarantee that any of the cohort of learners that we have been dealing with have been paid diligently on by the 25th. So we are not sure of the gentleman we've been trying to trace. But overall, I think I also listened to the discussion with the CETA a week ago. And from the CETA side, it does take much longer to undertake a due diligence on all the students or potential learners that they are recruiting for these programs. And it's often caused by potential students or learners maybe double dipping or dropping out from the programs. So the recruitment process does take 4 or 5 months for them to undertake a proper due diligence and ensure that people then complete their jobs. From Umgeni Water Services point of view, I saw one of the questions was why would we be involved in the education side as well? But Thulasizwe, from the education side, there are many problems facing the water sector. And we've established the Umgeni Water Services Institute of Learning to address the dire shortage of skills in the water sector. And some of this shortage of skills, they range from your engineers and scientists, town planners, etc. And we run a very successful program there where we train professional engineers for the placement in municipalities, because that's where the problems are, Thulasizwe.
So is all of this training work, is it under the auspices of the Energy and Water Sector Education and Training Authority?
There are 3 primary sources of the funding. One, Umgeni Water Service, Umgeni Water themselves, the CETAs, primarily the services CETA, Energy and Water CETA, and we're also looking to work with local government CETA. But we also get funding from National Treasury for the engineering side, for the training of the engineers, because of the large water leakage and poor recovery of revenue in the municipalities. We know in South Africa only over 47% of the water is lost due to water leakage, and in many municipalities they are only recovering 30% of the revenue that they are supposed to receive. And Thulasizwe, this results in a catch-22 for a utility like Umgeni Water, in that if the municipalities do not recover and collect their revenue, they don't have the ability to pay. And if you've been following the statistics, we see the credit risk or the unpaid accounts from municipalities to water boards has been spiraling out of control.
Absolutely.
So this is one of our interventions, is to go and assist the municipalities in the recovery side in terms of the water leakage, assist them in addressing the lack of skills in their sector.
Hold on for me a second, Peter. Let me just bring in one of our listeners, Temba in Gqeberha. Good morning, Temba.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. How are you?
Very well. Please go ahead.
Thulasizwe, I would first say I used to work for the other municipality responsible for employment creation. Umgeni Water is contracted by the labor departments for their claim. So the money that they are dispersing through their third parties is money that is coming from the labor department. But they are not diligent with their third parties. This is the scam that they are undertaking. I'm saying scam because, remember, I'm saying I was the manager in that municipality responsible for work creation.
Yes.
They asked us to recruit, and unfortunately I refused to get involved with my municipality. I then said they must recruit themselves. They did not pay people. They are not paying people, their third parties. Umgeni Water is using their own consultants to siphon money from the Department of Labor, and that they distribute somehow their money with their friends. Here now we must accept as South Africans.
All right, Peter.
Umgeni Water comes with English and this and that to explain the scam that we know. Remember, I'm saying I was not the beneficiary, but I was the manager.
Hold on, Peter. So hold on for a second. Don't go anywhere. Sorry, Temba. Don't go anywhere. Peter, you heard there. Temba is emphatic that there's a scam that is on the go at Umgeni Water. You're not diligent with your third parties, and basically there's a siphoning of money that comes from the Department of Labor. Is this the first time you hear of allegations like these? And have you heard enough that warrants an investigation?
Now, Thulasizwe, I don't know what program he's talking about. We actually do not get any funding from Department of Labor. I think they might be mixing us up with another Umgeni. I'm not sure who he's talking about.
Are you mixing them up? Are you mixing up your Umgenis?
No, not at all. Not at all. Umgeni Water. That was my question. from their consultant, Umgeni Water is in KZN. How can you be given a mandate in the Eastern Cape? And they said, no, it's in Ngeni Water. Ngeni Water is contracted by the Department of Labor. So I'm not mixing up. And the same would
contracted by the Department of Labor to do what, Temba?
To undertake programs that will create work for the unemployed.
Okay.
You see, they would say they would train them. They would say they would train them on this. They will train them on plumbing. They will do that, but they don't actually pay them at the end.
All right.
They vanish.
Got you. Temba, thank you for that. Peter, I don't know, are you contracted by the Department of Labor in which contract and, partnership you are meant to engage in work creation on behalf of the Department of Labor, but in all of that, there are instances where those people are not paid?
Definitely not, Thulasizwe. We are working with the services SETA. We're also working with the service EW SETA, and we currently have a cohort of 700 learners that are placed in different municipalities, in eThekwini, in Ugu, etc. And we are working on the program of addressing, unemployment, to assist in unemployment, but also to address the water problems ranging from the billing to the collection to the technical problems in the industry.
So would you say...
I think he's probably definitely mixing the program up with something else. We will in future be looking at funding from the Department of Labor and other sources to accelerate and multiply the program. But definitely maybe he can have a discussion with me afterwards offline to expand on what he's alleging. Thank you.
Do you believe that you perhaps might want to ask for this to be looked into to the extent that there could be an entity masquerading as, one that's acting on behalf of Umgeni Water out in the Eastern Cape?
We will definitely look at that, Thulasizwe. And I think if you could get his phone number, we can actually have a further, and can report back to you. But our program, Thulasizwe, is really looking at addressing water losses and at the same time creating youth employment. And they're fully auditable. I think every learner of the 700 can call in and testify that they are paid on time. It is something that we'd never let actually taint our organization. Our image is more important than the funding that's from these programs. So definitely a mix-up somewhere.
All right, Peter, thank you for that. And thank you for following through on that call from Dumisani and trying your best from your side to connect with him to answer some of the queries that he had. That's Peter Thompson, who is Managing Director of Umgeni Water Services.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Urgent alert if you're driving out through the northwest. The N4 has just been temporarily closed at Kruendal. Now, that is just on the eastern side of Rustenburg. There is a vehicle fire. In fact, I believe it's a tanker that is busy burning. Quite a backlog if you're Pretoria bound, with traffic getting back towards Waterfall Mall, and quite a backlog going into Rustenburg from Marikana. If you know the R104 route options, be a good idea to take that as an alternative rather than just be sitting in that traffic approaching the Kruendal site of that tanker fire. Pretoria has had a bit of traffic this morning on the M1 South, a breakdown near Boerta Avenue, that's slow, and then a crash now on the M1 North at Rigel. So both ways between Rigel Avenue and Boerta Avenue, it's fairly slow going due to those incidents. N1 North up to Rivonia, that earlier crash is out of the way. Coming out of Durban, a very busy Friday due to a couple of breakdowns around Cliffdale and Key Ridge area. So once you get to Shongweni, you get yourself into quite a heavy backlog to work through there. Cape Town's been a pretty gentle Friday run through. A little bit of traffic just starting to back up onto Main Road. That's the M2 inbound from the M5, and the elevated freeway just sluggish over the city centre foreshore area going into the CBD. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me start with the voice notes. A few people reflecting on the conversation we had with Christian Martin, who is the chairperson of the Eastern Cape's Geographical Names Committee, who weighed in a bit earlier on, and of course the conversation around taxi operators. I'll tell you what, let me start with the one on this person is a taxi operator, wants to weigh in on the conversations that have been happening about the industry throughout the morning.
Good morning, Thulas. I find it very strange that, on this show, particularly with the issue of taxi, is that commuters are not the ones calling in. Us taxi operators are not calling in. Even if we try to call in, or leave voice notes, we are not taken seriously. It's always people with opinions that doesn't use that doesn't use kumbis. But a lot of nonsense has been spoken today about taxi operators. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Well, at least we got you in, and I would have hoped that you would have said quite a bit more. I appreciate the sentiment about not being able to get through, but I would have hoped that you would have then expanded and challenged one or two of those notions that have been, pushed throughout the conversation today that you believe are absolute nonsense. Hopefully in future you'll be able to do that. But also I must say there was that caller from the Eastern Cape who said, look, this calls for a proper conversation. And I did say that I'll put in a good word with the Talking Point team. Yeah, I've got sway and influence with them, I can assure you. So I'll go directly to the team and see what they can orchestrate by way of a conversation about the taxi industry. And you are absolutely spot on. Those who are users of the system and the service should be at the heart of the conversation as well. So let me go back to that one about name changes and the conversation we had with Christian Martin earlier on, the chairperson of the Eastern Cape Geographical Names Committee.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. I think Christian Martin, he also needs to change his name. Yeah, because, his name first. He needs to start by himself. He needs to change his name and then change the cities as well.
I did not expect that.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. I must say I really love your show. With regards to all the name changes, especially in the Eastern Cape, I must say that I do find the new names a lot more interesting. And the only thing I would like to ask is maybe people can tell us what they mean. Because for me, who does not speak a lot of the language, the local language, I would really love to know what these names mean. But they really sound a lot better than the colonial names. Janet, Eastern Cape.
Janet, thank you for that. And in some instances, the names are quite interesting in that I think I saw recently someone wrote on social media about, Gqeberha. Initially, people didn't think they would get used to calling Port Elizabeth Gqeberha. But everyone now is used, well, not everyone, as many people are used to it, right? But also they like now that you can now call it GQ. I'm going to GQ. And then that same person, I can't remember which one of my friends was making this point, but Ibai still works just as well, that India Ibai. So, it's that dynamic as well. And on a funny note, some time ago, I think one of my friends was talking about the airport called David Stearman, and said, if you had fallen asleep and you wake up and you look through the window of the aeroplane and you see David Stearman Airport, for a moment you might think, where on earth am I? So it's been quite interesting, that whole process of name changes across the country. Let me go to Les in the Western Cape. Good morning to you, Les.
Oh, to Les.
Yes.
To Les, here in South Africa, we have got an excessive travel spending by the ministers. I don't know the ministers when they are here in South Africa, they are going for training in overseas or not. As a result, they are spending a lot of millions. When they spend a lot of millions for their trips, when they come back or in that department are failing, they are not working effectively. And then as a result, which means the traveling cost for the ministers is for the luxury, as I can see. Because if you can check, most of the money are spent for traveling. If I can ask you, maybe we can give you a little bit clue. What are they traveling for? Yeah. Even the Nyonzo of the PAC, they were traveling there. What are they traveling for?
Yeah. No, I hear you. And it's a point that many people have made, that if we are saying that our finances are under pressure, one of the immediate and clear points where you should be cutting is on traveling. So that trip to New York, for example, by the Department of Social Development comes to mind. That why did you need so many people traveling there? In those instances where you have a minister and a deputy minister, both of them going to the same destination. I hear you completely, and you will face no resistance from me at all on that point.
When they come back, they don't tell us what were they doing there in their own trip. This is I think they're abusing the state money or our money.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Les, thank you for that. That's Les in the Western Cape. And if there is value that is being realized from all of the traveling, because you can't do away completely with any travel, international travel, you do need to be negotiating partnerships and the likes. As I was saying, the state would be served better by a full report back, and it seems to be a theme that's emerging from the conversations we are having, that people would want a full and clear report back that says, from this trip, these are the lines of investment that we are pursuing. We will keep you updated as and when they start materializing and they start yielding results. Full transparency on what we are spending our money on. BG in Joburg, good morning. Bafana on your mind.
Yes, good morning, Put. No, I know the issue. I think even if we have messed up on the issue in the last game against Lesotho, but I think FIFA on delaying on issuing the verdict on this issue, it's not doing justice to all the nations that are involved in this group, not only Lesotho, but also, when you're a child and you have messed up and you come back home and your parents are not saying anything, they deprive you the right of playing.
Sounds like you're still traumatized, BG.
Yes. But again, hopefully there's hope that we can win all our games. Yeah.
Wait, BG. I want you to tell that story again. And I know that it relates to the bigger point we are making, but in that process, you said something interesting. So you're saying FIFA is delaying in deciding whether to sanction us or not. And by that, they are behaving like a parent. You come back and you know you are in trouble as a child. Then what happens?
Yeah, I think so. I think by now, even if you look in the previous teams that have done the same thing, the verdict was issued. So we are wrong. Then we played someone we're not supposed to play. They should have issued a verdict by now. I don't know what is delaying. It's there all over.
So basbegi pampar, basically. Basbegi pampar.
We know we've done wrong. We accept. Punish us. Then
so
I
we
think
can move on.
It's also simple for South Africa that we know that now we're playing not knowing whether the points would be deducted or not deducted and all those kind of things. I don't think it's fair on us.
But in a squinch, that's big squinch. Pampar. All right, PG. Thank you for that. That's PG in Joburg weighing in on that situation with Bafana, saying it would be better if by now we were clearer as to what's our status, as to whether or not we'll be sanctioned for that blunder. That's it, really. Thank you for listening and thank you for your engagement. The Talking Point is coming up next with KG Mweketsi standing in for Kathy Mohlahlana today. But that's only coming up after the news. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and you've been briefed.
Thank you, Thulasizwe. Your top stories at this hour. Off-duty cop shot and killed in Western Cape, and Sagalehat monitor government's intervention in Ditsobotla. Good morning. With the news at 9 o'clock, I am Chandruko Ligege. A 42-year-old off-duty police officer has been shot and killed in Luandle, Strand in the Western Cape. Police spokesperson Malcolm Boia says it is alleged that the officer was driving yesterday when unknown gunmen opened fire, fatally wounding him in the upper body. Boia says the officer then lost control of his vehicle, which came to a stop against a fence. He says the motive is believed to be linked to ongoing taxi conflict. No arrests have been made yet. The ANC in KwaZulu-Natal has suspended the membership of the Ward 17 councillor in the Mandeni local municipality. The suspension comes after the councillor was implicated in allegations of rape and assault. The ANC in the province says his removal comes after the councillor brutally attacked a member of the public who survived the attack but later disappeared. The victim's remains were discovered a few months later. ANC provincial spokesperson Fanele Sibisi elaborates.
The African National Congress condemns in the strongest possible terms any form of violence, abuse of authority, and actions that violate the dignity, safety, and the rights of members of society. The ANC reiterates its commitment to upholding the values and the integrity, accountability, and respect for human rights.
Civil organization Sakaleha says they will continue to monitor the intervention of the national government at the Ditsobotla local municipality in Lichtenberg in the Northwest Province. They have been assisting residents who have been experiencing serious service delivery challenges for years. Hlengiwe Mkhalipi is an EFF member, while Kwenza Madlala represents the MK party in parliament.
I think there's a progress. Let's just give them a chance. Remember, they were dissolved. We were here, we deployed here. 20 wards. It was not very easy task to go and campaign. But now, if they found each other and work as different political parties, let us welcome that.
I do not place much confidence in that process, because it's the flow of corruption. It's a synergy across the ruling party and its partners. So you bring someone from national government with a mandate to come and turn the situation around. The likelihood of positive outcomes is very minimal.
The DA has announced plans to present a motion to remove the acting corporate services director of Stellenbosch municipality following allegations of racism. Alexander Kennemeyer has come under fire after a video surfaced showing him making racially charged remarks about white employees. In the footage, Kennemeyer suggests making life difficult for white workers to force their resignations and claims that appointing skilled candidates often prioritizes white men, a practice he says must end. DA National Spokesperson is Willie Okamp.
The Democratic Alliance will also put a request to the municipal manager to suspend Mr. Kennemeyer from all positions that he holds within the municipality. The right to suspend lies with the municipal manager, not with council, because of the fact that Mr. Kennemeyer is not a senior director or employee in the municipality.